I take a careful sip of the coffee, noticing that the pendant necklace I left on the counter early this morning is gone. I search the floor, behind the canisters, the junk drawer where we keep random things. The necklace is nowhere. Someone has taken it. I picture it lying there how I left it, the dainty chain coiled into a mound, with the M on top. The fact that it's now missing only adds to my suspicion. This morning, while I lay in bed, the four of them, Will, Otto, Tate, and Imogen, were in the kitchen together. It would have been so easy for Imogen to slip that necklace from the countertop when no one was looking. I consider the threatening notes Morgan received. Would Imogen have sent those? Why, I wonder, at first. And then, just as quickly, why not? I think of the way Imogen treats me, the way she scares me. If she could do this to me, she could just as easily do it to Morgan. I leave the drawing where it is and carry my coffee to the laundry room. There I see that this morning, after I went back to bed, Will finished the laundry for me. The piles of clothes I left are gone. They've been replaced, instead, with an empty laundry basket and a clean tile floor. I drop to my hands and knees beside the washing machine, looking beneath, grateful to find the blood-stained washcloth still there, and yet just as horrified as I was at seeing it for the first time. All the emotions come rushing back to me, and I know that I have to tell Will about this. I leave the washcloth where it is. I go back to the kitchen to wait. I sit at the table. Otto's drawing sits 6 feet away, the eyes of the decapitated head staring at me. I can't stand to look at it. I wait until nearly 9 o'clock to call Will, knowing that by then he'll have taken Tate to school. He'll have dropped him off. He will be alone by now, and we'll be able to speak in private. When Will answers, he's on the ferry, heading to campus. He asks how I'm feeling as he answers the call. I tell him, not good. I hear the sound of the wind whipping around him, gusting into the handset. He's outside, standing on the outer deck of the ferry, getting peppered with snow. Will could be inside, in the nicely heated cabin, but he isn't. Instead, he's relinquished his seat indoors for someone else. And I think that this is so classic Will, to be selfless. We need to talk, Will, I say. And though he tells me that it's loud on the ferry, that this isn't the best time, I say it again. We need to talk. Can I call when I get to campus? He asks. Will talks loudly through the phone, trying to counter the noise of the wind. I say no. I tell him this is important, that this can't wait. What is it? He asks. And I come outright and say that I think Imogen had something to do with Morgan's murder. His sigh is long, exasperated, but he humors me nonetheless, asking why I think this now. I found a bloody washcloth, Will, in the laundry, completely saturated in blood. From the other end of the line comes an ear-splitting silence. I go on, because he says nothing. I feel the words rattle in my throat. Before me, my hands have turned sweaty, though inside I'm so cold I shake. I tell him how I discovered it as I was doing the laundry, how I found the washcloth and hid it beneath the washing machine, because I didn't know what else to do with it. Where is this washcloth now? He asks, concern in his voice. Still under the washing machine. The thing is, Will, I'm thinking about turning the washcloth over to Officer Berg. Whoa, he says. Stop right there, Sadie. You're not making any sense. Are you sure it's blood? I'm sure. Will tries to make excuses. Maybe someone had wiped up a spill with it. Paint, mud, some mess the dogs made. Maybe dog shit, he says. And it's so unlike Will to be crass like that. But perhaps, like me, he's scared. Maybe one of the boys cut himself, he suggests. And he reminds me then of the time Otto was small and ran the pad of his thumb across the razor's sharp blade, just to see what it would feel like, though he had been told before to never touch Daddy's razor. The razor sliced through his skin. There was a surge of blood that Otto tried to hide from us. He didn't want to get in trouble. We found blood-stained tissues packed in the garbage can, an infection festering days later on his thumb. This isn't the same thing as playing with razors, I tell Will. This is far different than that. The washcloth, Will, was wet through with blood. Not a few drops of blood, but it was literally soaked. Imogen killed her, I say decisively. She killed her and wiped herself clean with that washcloth. It isn't fair what you're doing to her, Sadie, he says, voice loud. And I don't know if he's yelling at me or yelling over the wind, but he's most definitely yelling. This is a witch hunt, he says. Morgan's necklace was here too, I go on. I found it on the stairs. I stepped on it. I set it on the kitchen counter and now it's gone. Imogen took it to hide the evidence. Sadie, he says, I know you don't like her. I know she hasn't taken kindly to you, but you can't keep blaming her for every little thing that goes wrong. His choice of words strikes me as strange. Every little thing. Murder is not an inconsequential thing. If not Imogen, then someone in this house killed her, I tell Will. That's a given, because how else can you explain her necklace on our floor, the bloody washcloth in the laundry? If not her, then who? I ask. And at first, the question is rhetorical. At first, I ask it only to make him see that of course it was Imogen, because no one else in the house is capable of murder. If she did it once, yanking that stool from beneath her mother's feet, she could do it again. But then, in the silence that follows, my eyes come to land on Otto's angry drawing with the decapitated head and the blobs of blood, the fact that he's regressed to playing with dolls. And I think of the way my 14-year-old son carried a knife to school. I draw in a sudden breath, wondering if Imogen isn't the only one in this house who is capable of murder. I don't mean for the thought to leave my head, and yet it does. Could it have been Otto? I think aloud, wishing as soon as the words are out that I could take them back, put them back in my head where they belong. You can't be serious, Will says, and I don't want to be serious. I don't want to believe for a second that Otto could do this. But it isn't outside the realm of possibility, because the same argument rings true. If he did it once, he could do it again. But what about Otto's history of violence, I ask. Not a history of violence, Will insists. Otto never hurt anyone, remember? But how do you know he wouldn't have, if he hadn't been caught first? If that student hadn't turned him in, how do you know he wouldn't have hurt his classmates, Will? We can't know what he would have done, but I'd like to believe our son isn't a killer, Will says. Wouldn't you? Will is right. Otto never hurt any of those kids back at his old high school. But the intent was there. The motive, a weapon. He very intentionally took a knife to school. There's no telling what he might have done if his plan hadn't been thwarted in time. How can you be so sure? Because I want to believe only the best about our son. Because I won't let myself think Otto could take another life, he says. And I'm overcome with the strangest combination of fear and guilt that I don't know which prevails. Am I more scared that Otto has murdered a woman? Or do I feel more guilty for allowing myself to think this? This is my son I'm speaking of. Is my son capable of murder? Don't you know that, Sadie? Do you really believe Otto could do this? He asks. And it's my silence that gets the best of him. My unknowingness. My silent admission that, yes, I do think maybe Otto could have done this. Will breathes out loudly, feathers ruffled. His words are clipped. What Otto did, Sadie, Will says, words razor sharp, is a far cry from murder. He's 14, for God's sake. He's a kid. He acted in self-defense. He stood up for himself the only way he knew how. You're being irrational, Sadie. But what if I'm not? I ask. Will's response is immediate. But you are, he says. What Otto did was stand up for himself when no one else would. He stops there, but I know he wants to say more. He wants to tell me that Otto took matters into his own hands because of me. Because even though Otto told me about the harassment, I didn't intervene. Because I wasn't listening. There was a hotline at the school, a bullying hotline. I could have called and left an anonymous complaint. I could have called a teacher or the school principal and made a not-so-anonymous complaint. But instead, I did nothing. I ignored him, even if unintentionally. Will has yet to call me out on this, and yet I see it there in the unspoken words. Silently, he's castigating me. He thinks it's my fault Otto took that knife to school, because I didn't offer a more reasonable alternative, a more appropriate alternative for our 14-year-old son. Otto isn't a murderer. He would never have hurt those kids, I don't think. He's a troubled boy, a scared boy. There's a difference. I'm scared, Will, I admit. And he says, voice softening, I know you are, Sadie. We both are. I have to turn the washcloth in to the police, I tell him, voice cracking, on the verge of tears. And only then does Will relent, because of the tone of my voice. He knows as well as I that I've become discomposed. It isn't right for us to keep it. All right then, he says. As soon as I get to campus, I'll cancel my classes. Give me an hour, Sadie, and then I'll be home. Don't do anything with the washcloth until then, he pleads, before his voice takes on a different tone, a softer tone, and he says, We'll go see Officer Berg together. Just wait until I get home, and we'll speak to Officer Berg together. I end the call and move into the living room to wait. I drop down onto the marigold sofa. I stretch my legs before me, thinking that if I close my eyes, I will sleep. The weight of worry and fatigue come bearing down on me, and suddenly I'm tired. My eyes sink shut. Before I can fall asleep, they bolt open again. The sound of the front door startles me. It shifts in its casing, getting jostled around. It's only the wind blowing against it, agitating the door, I tell myself. But then comes the sound of a key jiggling in the lock. It's only been a few minutes since Will and I hung up the phone, no more than 10 or 15. He would have scarcely reached the mainland by now, much less waited for passengers to disembark and then board the boat. He wouldn't have had time to make the 20-minute commute back across the bay, or drive home from the ferry dock. It's not Will. Someone else is here. I inch myself away from the door, searching for a place to hide. But before I've gone a step or two, the door presses violently open. It ricochets off the rubber stopper on the other side. There, standing in the foyer, is Otto. His backpack is slung across a shoulder. His hair is covered with snow. It's white with it. His cheeks are rosy and red from the cold outside. The tip of his nose is also red. Everything else is pallid. Otto slams the door shut. Otto, I breathe out mid-stride, pressing my hand to my chest. What are you doing here? I ask, and he says, I'm sick. He does look peaked to me, yes, but I'm not certain he looks sick. The school didn't call, I tell him, because this is the way it's supposed to happen. The school nurse is supposed to call and tell me my son is sick, and then I go to the school and pick him up. But this isn't what happened. The nurse just sent you home? I ask, feeling cross at her for allowing a child to walk off campus in the middle of the school day, but also scared, because the look on Otto's face is alarming. He shouldn't be here. Why is he here? His reply is offhand. He takes a step into the room. I didn't ask, he says. I just left. I see, I say, feeling my feet inch backward. What's that supposed to mean? He asks. I told you I was sick. You don't believe me? It isn't like Otto to be antagonistic with me. Otto stares at me with his jaw clenched, chin forward. He runs his fingers through his hair, then jams them into the pockets of his jeans. What doesn't feel good? I ask, a lump forming in the pit of my stomach. Otto moves another step closer and says, My throat. Though his voice isn't raspy. He doesn't clutch a hand to his throat as one does when it hurts. But it's conceivable, of course. His throat could hurt. He could be telling the truth. Strep throat is going around, as is the flu. Your father is on his way home, I force out, though I don't know why. No, he's not, he says, his voice chillingly composed. Dad's at work. He canceled his classes, I say, shambling backward. He's coming home. He should be here soon. Why? Otto asks, as in my subtle retreat, I bump softly into the fireplace mantel. I lie, telling Otto that Will also didn't feel well. He was turning around just as soon as his ferry reached the mainland. I glance at the clock and say, any minute he should be home. No, he won't, Otto says again. It's irrefutable the way that he says it. I suck in a breath, release it slowly. What do you mean? I ask. Ferries are delayed because of the storm, he tells me, thrusting that hair of his back again with a hand. How did you get home? I ask. Mine was the last to leave. Oh, I say, thinking of Otto and me trapped together in this house until ferry traffic resumes. How long will that take? I wonder why Will hasn't called to tell me about the ferries, though my phone is in the other room. I wouldn't have heard it if he did. A gust of wind rattles the house just then, making the whole thing shake. As it does, the lamp on the end table flickers. I hold my breath, waiting for the room to go dark. There's a meager amount of light coming through the windows, but as they fill with snow, it gets harder to see. The world outside turns a charcoal gray. The dogs bark. Do you want me to look at your throat? I ask Otto. When he doesn't reply, I retrieve my penlight from my bag in the foyer and go to him. Standing beside Otto, I see how he's surpassed me in height, nearly overnight. He looks down on me now. He isn't heavily built. Rather, he's lanky. He smells of teenage boy, all those hormones they secrete in their sweat during puberty. But he's handsome, the spitting image of Will, just younger and thinner. I reach up and press my fingers to his lymph nodes. They're enlarged. He might be sick. Open up, I tell him, and though he hesitates, he complies. Otto opens his mouth. It's lazy at best, just barely enough for me to see inside. I shine my penlight in, seeing a red, irritated throat. I press the back of my hand to his forehead, feeling for a fever. As I do, I feel a sudden rush of nostalgia, bringing me back to a 4- or 5-year-old Otto, sick as a dog with the flu. Instead of a hand, it used to be my lips, a far more accurate measure of temperature to me. One quick kiss, and I could tell if my boys were febrile or not. That, and the way they'd lie limp and helpless in my arms, wanting to be coddled. Those days are gone. All at once, Otto's strong hand latches down on my wrist, and I jerk immediately back. His grasp is strong. I can't free myself from his hold. The penlight drops from my hand, batteries skidding across the floor. What are you doing, Otto? Let go of me, I cry out, trying desperately to wiggle free from his grasp. You're hurting me, I tell him. His grip is tight. I look up to find his eyes watching me. They're more brown than blue today, more sad than mad. Otto speaks, his words nothing more than a whisper. I'll never forgive you, he says, and I stop fighting. For what, Otto? I breathe, still thinking about the washcloth and the necklace, as again the lights in the home flicker, and I hold my breath, waiting for them to go out. My eyes move to a lamp, wishing I had something to protect myself with. The lamp has a beautiful glazed ceramic base, sturdy, solid enough to do damage, but not so heavy that I can't pick it up. But it's 6 feet away now, out of reach, and I don't know that I'd have it in me anyway, to clutch the lamp by the neck and bash the heavy end into my own son's head. Even in self-defense, I don't know that I could. Otto's Adam's apple bobs in his throat. "You know," he says, fighting back the urge to cry. I shake my head and say, "I don't know." Though I realize in the next moment that I do. He'll never forgive me for not standing up for him that day in the principal's office, for not complying with his lie. "For lying," he hollers, composure waning, "about the knife." "I never lied," I tell him. What I want to say is that he's the one who lied, but it doesn't seem a smart time to lay blame. Instead, "If only you'd have come to me. I could have helped you, Otto. We could have talked it through. We could have come up with a solution." "I did," he interjects, voice quivering. "I did come to you. You're the only one I told." And I try not to imagine Otto opening up to me about what was happening at school, and me giving him the brush off. I struggle to remember it, as I have every day and night since it happened. What was I doing when Otto told me about the bullying? What was I so busy doing that I couldn't pay attention when he confessed to me that kids at school called him heinous names, that they shoved him into lockers, plunged his head into dirty toilet bowls? "Otto," I say under my breath, full of shame for not being there when Otto needed me most. "If I wasn't listening, if I wasn't paying attention, I'm so sorry," I tell him. And I start to tell him how I was completely inundated with work in those days, tired and overwhelmed. But that's little consolation to a 14-year-old boy who needed his mother. I don't make excuses for my behavior. It wouldn't feel right. Before I can say more, Otto is speaking, and for the first time there are details I've never heard before. How we were outside when he told me about the bullying, how it was late at night, how Otto couldn't sleep. He came looking for me. He tells me he found me outside on our building's fire escape, just outside the kitchen window, dressed in all black, smoking a cigarette. The details? They're ludicrous. "I don't smoke, Otto," I tell him. "You know that. And heights." I shake my head, shuddering. I don't need to say more. He knows what I mean. I'm acrophobic. I've always been. We lived on the 6th floor of our condo in Chicago, the top floor of a printer's row mid-rise. I never took the elevator, only the stairs. I never stepped foot on the balcony where Will spent his mornings, sipping coffee and enjoying the sweeping city views. "Come with me," Will used to say, smiling mischievously while tugging on my hand. "I'll keep you safe. Don't I always keep you safe?" he asked. But I never went with him. "But you were," Otto claims. And I ask, "How did you know I was there if it was the middle of the night? How did you see me?" "The flame, from the cigarette lighter." But I don't own a cigarette lighter, because I don't smoke. But I go quiet anyway. I let him go on. Otto says that he climbed out the window and sat beside me. It had taken him weeks to work up the courage to come and tell me. Otto says I went ballistic when he told me what the kids were doing to him at school, that I was totally worked up. We plotted revenge. We made a list of the best ways. "The best ways for what?" I ask. He says it unambiguously, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. "The best way to kill them," he says. "Who?" "The kids at school," he tells me. Because even the kids that didn't mock him still laughed. And so, he and I decided that night that they all needed to go. I blanch. I humor him only because I think that this is cathartic somehow for Otto. "And how were we going to do that?" I ask, not certain I want to know the ways he and I supposedly came up with to kill his classmates. Because they're Otto's ideas, every last one of them. And I want to believe that somewhere inside of him is still my son. He shrugs his shoulders and says, "I don't know. A whole bunch of ways. We talked about starting the school on fire, using lighter fluid or gasoline. You said I could poison the cafeteria food. We talked about that for a while. For a while, that seemed like the way to go. Take out a whole bunch of them at once. How did we plan to do that? I ask, as he grows lax and his hand loosens its grip on my wrist. I try to pull free, but just like that, he re-engages, clinging tighter to me. His answer is so sure. Botox, he says with another shrug. You said you could get it. Botox, botulinum toxin, which we stocked at the hospital because it treats migraines, symptoms of Parkinson's disease, and a host of other conditions. But it can be fatal, too. It's one of the deadliest substances in the world. Or stabbing them all, he says, telling me how we'd decided that was the best way, because he didn't have to wait for poison, and a knife was easier to hide in his backpack than bottles of lighter fluid. He could do it right away, the very next day. We went inside, Otto reminds me. Remember, Mom? We climbed back in the window and went to look over all the knives, to see which would be best. You decided, he tells me, explaining how I chose the chef knife because of its size. According to Otto, I then took out Will's whetstone and sharpened the knife. I said something canny about how a sharp knife is safer than a dull one, before smiling at him. Then I slipped it in his backpack in the soft laptop sleeve, behind all of his other belongings. As I zipped the backpack closed, I winked at him. You don't have to worry about getting an organ, Otto says that I said. Any old artery will do. My stomach roils at the thought of it. My free hand rises to my mouth as bile inches up my esophagus. I want to scream. No, that he's wrong, that I never said such a thing, that he's making this all up. But before I can reply, Otto is telling me that before he went to bed that night, I said to him, "Don't let anyone laugh at you. You shut them up if they do." That night, Otto slept better than he had in a long time. But the next morning, he had second thoughts about it. He was suddenly scared. But I wasn't there to talk it through. I'd gone into work for the day. He called me. That, I remember, a voicemail on my phone that I didn't discover until later that night. "Mom," he'd said, "it's me. I really need to talk to you." But by the time I heard the voicemail, it was done. Otto had taken that knife to school. By the grace of God, no one was hurt. Listening to Otto speak, I realize one gut-wrenching truth. He doesn't think that he's made this story up. He believes it. In his mind, I am the one who packed the knife in his backpack. I am the one who lied. I can't help myself. I reach up with my one free hand and trace his jawline. His body stiffens, but he doesn't react. He lets me touch him. There is hair there, only a small patch of it that will one day grow to a beard. How did the little boy who once lacerated his thumb on the blade of Will's razor grow old enough to shave? His hair hangs in his eyes. I brush it back, seeing that his eyes lack all the hostility they usually have, but are instead drowning in pain. "If I hurt you in any way," I whisper, "I'm sorry. I would never do anything to intentionally hurt you." Only then does he acquiesce. He lets go of my wrist, and I step quickly back. "Why don't you go lie down in your room?" I suggest. "I'll bring you toast." "I'm not hungry," Otto grunts. "How about juice, then?" He ignores me. I watch, grateful that he turns and lumbers up the stairs to his bedroom, backpack still clinging to his back. I go to the first-floor study and close the door. I hurry to the computer on the desk and open the browser. I go to look up the website to the ferry company to search for news on delays. I'm anxious for Will to be home. I want to tell him about my conversation with Otto. I want to go to the police. I don't want to wait anymore to do these things. If it wasn't for the weather, I'd leave. Tell Otto I'm running out on an errand and not come back until Will is here. As I begin to type in the browser, a history of past internet searches greets me. My breath leaves me, because Aaron Sabine's name is in the search history. Someone has been looking up Will's former fiancé. Will, I assume, feeling nostalgic on the 20-year anniversary of her death. I have no self-control. I click on the link. Images greet me. An article, too. A report from 20 years ago on Aaron's death. There are photographs included in the article. One is of a car being excavated from an icy pond. Emergency crews hover solemnly in the background, while a wrecker truck lugs the car from the water. I read through the article. It's just as Will told me. Erin lost control of her car in a wicked winter storm, like the one we're having today. She drowned. The second image is of Erin with her family. There are 4 of them: a mother, a father, Erin, and a younger sister who looks to me somewhere in between Otto's and Tate's ages. 10, maybe 11. The photograph is professional looking. The family is in a street between an avenue of trees. The mother sits on a garish yellow chair that's been placed there for purposes of this photograph. Her family stands around her, the girls leaning into their mother indulgently. It's the mother I can't take my eyes off of. There's something about her that nags at me. A round woman with shoulder-length brunette hair. Something strikes a chord, but I don't know what. Something that hovers just out of the periphery of my mind. Who is she? The dogs begin to howl just then. I hear it all the way from here. They've finally had enough of this storm. They want to come inside. I rise from the desk. I let myself out of the study, padding quickly to the kitchen, where I yank open the back door. I step outside, onto the deck, hissing to the dogs to come. But they don't come. I move across the yard. The dogs are both frozen like statues in the corner. They've caught something, a rabbit or a squirrel. I have to stop them before they eat the poor thing. And in my mind's eye, I see the white snow riddled with animal blood. The yard is covered in snowdrifts. They rise a foot high in some spots, the grass barely flecked with snow in others. The wind tries hard to push me down as I trek through the yard, making my way out to the dogs. The property is large, and they're far away, pawing at something. I clap my hands and call to them again, but still they don't come. The snow blows sideways. It gusts up the leg of my pajama pants and into the neckline of my shirt. My feet, covered in slippers alone, ache from the bitter cold. I didn't think to put shoes on before I came outside. It's hard to see much of anything. The trees, the houses, the horizon disappear in the snow. I find it hard to open my eyes. I think of the kids still in school. How will they get home? Halfway to the dogs, I think about turning around. I don't know that I have it in me to make it all the way there. I clap again. I call to them. They don't come. If Will was here, they would come. I force myself to go on. It hurts to breathe. The air is so cold it burns my throat and lungs. The dogs bark again, and I run the last 20 feet to them. They look sheepishly at me as I come, and I expect to find a half-eaten cadaver lying between their feet. I reach out, grabbing a hold of one of the girls' collars and pulling, saying, "Come on, let's go," not caring if there's a maimed squirrel there, but just needing to be back inside. But she just stands there, whining at me, refusing to come. She's much too big for me to lug all the way home. I try, but as I do, I stagger from the weight of her, losing balance. I fall forward to my hands and knees, where there, before me, between the dog's paws, something sparkles in the snow. It's not a rabbit. It's not a squirrel. It's much too small to be a rabbit or a squirrel. And then there's the shape of it, long and slender and sharp. My heart races. My fingers tingle. The black specks return, dancing before my eyes. I feel like I could be sick. And then suddenly I am. On my hands and knees, I retch into the snow. My diaphragm contracts, but it's a dry heave only. I've had nothing to eat but a few sips of coffee. My stomach is empty. There's nothing there to come back up. One of the dogs nudges me with her nose. I latch onto her, steadying myself, seeing plainly that the object between the dog's feet is a knife. The missing boning knife. The blood on it is what's piqued the dog's interest. The blade of the knife is approximately 6 inches long, same as the one that killed Morgan Baines. Beside the knife sits a hole that the dogs have carved into the earth. The dogs dug up this knife. This knife was buried in our backyard. All this time, they've been digging into the backyard to unearth this knife. I glance quickly back to the house. Though in reality I see nothing, just barely the softened periphery of the house itself. I imagine Otto standing at the kitchen window, watching me. I can't go home. I leave the dogs where they are. I leave the knife where it is. I don't touch it. I limp across the yard. My feet tingle from the cold, losing feeling. It makes it hard for them to move. I lumber around the side of the house, missing my footing because of my frozen feet. I fall into the snowdrifts and then force myself back up. It's a quarter-mile hike to the bottom of our hill. That's where the town and the public safety building are located, where I'll find Officer Berg. Will said to wait, but I can no longer wait. There's no telling what time Will be home, or what may happen to me by the time he is. The street is barren and bleak. It's saturated in white. There's no one here but me. I shamble down the hill, nose oozing with snot. I wipe it away with a sleeve. I'm wearing only pajamas, not a coat or a hat, not gloves. The pajamas do nothing to keep me warm, to protect me. My teeth chatter. I can barely keep my eyes open because of the wind. The snow blows from all ways simultaneously, constantly airborne, swirling in circles like the vortex of a tornado. My fingers freeze. They're blotchy and red. I can't feel my face. Off in the distance, the blade of a shovel scrapes a sidewalk. There's the littlest bit of hope that comes with it. There is someone else on this island besides Otto and me. I go on only because I have no choice but to go on. Mouse. In the middle of the night, Mouse heard a noise she knew well. It was the squeak of the stairs, which had no reason to be squeaking, since Mouse was already in her bed. As Mouse knew, there was one bedroom on the second floor of the old house. At night, after she was in bed, there was no reason for anyone to be upstairs but her. But someone was coming up the stairs. Fake Mom was coming upstairs. And the stairs themselves were calling out a warning for Mouse, telling her to run, telling her to hide. But Mouse didn't have a chance to run or hide, because it happened too fast, and she was disoriented from sleep. Mouse barely had time to open her eyes before the bedroom door pressed open, and there Fake Mom stood, backlit by the hallway light. Bert, in her cage on the bedroom floor, emitted a piercing screech. She rushed under her translucent dome for safety. There she held still like a statue, mistakenly believing no one would see her on the other side of the opaque plastic, so long as she didn't move. In her bed, Mouse tried to hold real still too. But Fake Mom saw her there, just as she saw Bert. Fake Mom flicked the bedroom light on. The brightness of it overpowered Mouse's tired, dilated eyes, so that at first she couldn't see, but she could hear. Fake Mom spoke, her voice composed in a way that startled Mouse even more than if it wasn't. Her steps were slow and deliberate as she let herself into the room, when Mouse wished she would come running in, screaming, and then leave, because then it would be over and through. "What did I tell you about picking up after yourself, Mouse?" Fake Mom asked, coming closer to the bed, stepping past Bert and her cage. She grabbed Mouse's bedspread by the edge and tugged, revealing Mouse in her unicorn pajamas beneath, the ones she put on without anyone having to tell her to put them on. Beside Mouse, in the bed, was Mr. Bear. Did you think that picking up after yourself didn't mean flushing a toilet or wiping up after you piss all over the seat? The same seat that I have to sit on? Mouse's blood ran cold. She didn't have to think about what fake Mom was talking about. She knew. And she knew there was no point in explaining, though she tried anyway. Her voice trembled as she spoke. She told fake Mom what happened, how she tried to be quiet, how she didn't want to wake fake Mom up, how she didn't mean to pee on the seat, how she didn't flush the toilet because she knew it would be loud. But Mouse was nervous when she spoke. She was scared. Her little voice shook so that her words came out unintelligibly. Fake Mom didn't like mumbling. She barked at Mouse. "Speak up!" Then she rolled her eyes and said that Mouse wasn't nearly as smart as her father thought she was. Mouse tried to explain again, to speak louder, to enunciate her words. But it didn't matter, because fake Mom didn't want an explanation, whether an audible or inaudible one. The question she'd asked, Mouse realized too late, was rhetorical, the kind of question that doesn't want an answer at all. "Do you know what happens when dogs have accidents inside the house?" Fake Mom asked Mouse. Mouse didn't know for sure what happened. She'd never had a dog before. But what she thought was that someone cleaned the mess up, and that was that. It was done. Because that was the way it happened with Bert. Bert was forever pooping and peeing in Mouse's lap, and it was never a big deal. Mouse wiped it up, washed her hands, and went back to playing with Bert. But fake Mom wouldn't have asked the question if it was as easy as that. Mouse told her that she didn't know. "I'll show you what happens," fake Mom said, as she grabbed Mouse by the arm and pulled her from bed. Mouse didn't want to go where fake Mom wanted her to go, but she didn't object, because she knew it would hurt less if she just went with fake Mom than allowing herself to be pulled from bed and dragged down the squeaky stairs. So that was what she did. Except that fake Mom walked faster than Mouse could walk, and so she tripped. When she did, she fell all the way to the floor. It made fake Mom angry. It made her scream, "Get up!" Mouse did. They made their way down the steps. The house was mostly dark, but there was a hint of the night sky coming in through the windows. Fake Mom brought Mouse into the living room. She brought her to the center of the room, turned her in a specific direction. There, in the corner of the room, was the empty dog crate, door open as it never was. "I used to have a dog once," fake Mom said. "A Springer Spaniel. I named him Max, mostly because I couldn't think of a better name. He was a good dog, a dumb dog, but a good dog. We took walks together. Sometimes when we'd watch TV, he'd sit by my side. But then Max went and made an accident in the corner of my house when I wasn't home. And that made Max bad," she said. She went on. "See, we can't have animals urinating and defecating inside our homes, where they're not supposed to go. It's dirty, Mouse. Do you understand that? The best way to teach a dog is by crate training, because the dog doesn't want to have to sit with its own piss and shit for days. And so it learns to hold it. Same as you can," fake Mom said, as she grabbed Mouse by the arm and yanked her the rest of the way across the living room for that open dog crate. Mouse fought back, but Mouse was a child, only 6 years old. She weighed less than half of what fake Mom weighed, and she had nearly no strength at all. Mouse had had no dinner, only 3 Salerno butter cookies. She'd just been woken from sleep. It was the middle of the night, and she was tired. She wiggled and writhed, but that was the best she could do, and so she was easily manhandled by fake Mom. She was forced into the dog crate, which was not even as tall as she was when she sat down. She couldn't even sit all the way up inside the cage, and so her head rubbed against the hard metal bars of the cage. Her neck kinked. She couldn't lie down, couldn't stretch out her legs. She had to keep them pulled into her so that they went numb. Mouse was crying. She was begging to be let out, promising to be good, to never pee on the toilet seat again. But fake Mom wasn't listening, because fake Mom was making her way back upstairs. Mouse didn't know why. She thought maybe fake Mom was going back up to get her poor Mr. Bear. But when fake Mom returned, she didn't have the bear. She had Bert. It made Mouse shriek, seeing her sweet guinea pig in fake Mom's hands. Bert never did like to be held by anyone other than Mouse. She was kicking her tiny feet in fake Mom's grasp, squealing her high-pitched squeal, louder than Mouse had ever heard her before. It wasn't the same squeal she made for carrots. It was a different kind of squeal, a terrified kind of squeal. Mouse's heart was beating 1,000,000 miles a minute. She beat on the bars of that dog crate, but couldn't get out. She tried forcing the door open, but it wouldn't budge, because there was some sort of padlock on that door. Did you know, Mouse, that a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp one? She asked, holding one of her knives up in the air to examine the blade in the moonlight. How many times? She asked, not waiting for an answer to the question she'd already asked. Do I have to tell you that I don't want one rodent in this house, let alone two? Mouse closed her eyes and pressed her hands to her ears so that she couldn't see or hear what came next. It wasn't a week before Mouse's father had another work trip. He stood in the doorway saying his goodbyes as fake Mom stood beside Mouse. I'll only be gone for a few days. I'll be back before you can miss me, her father said as he stared into Mouse's sad eyes, promising her that when he got home, they'd pick out a new guinea pig for her, one to replace Bert. Her father was of the opinion that Bert had merely run away, that she was getting her kicks somewhere in the voids of the house, where they couldn't find her. Mouse didn't want a new guinea pig. Not then, not ever. And only Mouse and fake Mom knew the reason why. Beside her, fake Mom squeezed Mouse's shoulder. She stroked her mousy brown hair and said, We're going to get along just fine, aren't we, Mouse? Now say goodbye to your father so that he can go on his trip. Mouse tearfully said goodbye. She and fake Mom stood beside each other, watching as her father's car pulled from the drive and disappeared around the bend. And then, fake Mom kicked the front door closed and turned on Mouse. Sadie. The public safety building is a small brick building in the center of town. I'm grateful to find the door unlocked, a warm yellow light glowing from the inside. A woman sits behind the desk, pecking away on a keyboard as I let myself in. She startles, clutching her bosom, when the door bursts open and I appear. On a day such as this, she hadn't expected anyone to be outside. I trip over the door's threshold on the way in. I didn't see the 1-inch rise. I fall to my hands and knees just inside the doorway, not having it in me to catch myself in time. The floor isn't as yielding as the snow. This fall hurts far more than the others. Oh dear, the woman says, rising quickly to her feet to come help me to mine. She nearly runs around the edge of the desk and reaches for me on the floor. Her mouth hangs open, her eyes wide with surprise. She can't believe what she's seeing. The room around me is boxy and small. Yellow walls, carpeted floors, a double pedestal desk. The air is miraculously warm. A space heater stands in the corner, blowing heated air throughout the room. I've no sooner found my feet than I go to the heater, dropping to my knees before the oscillating fan. Officer Berg, I just managed to say, lips sluggish from the cold. My back is to the woman. Officer Berg, please. Yes, she says. Yes, of course. And before I know what's happening, she's screaming for him. She graciously reaches past me to turn the space heater to a higher speed, and I press my hands to it, burning from the cold. "There's someone here to see you," she says uneasily, and I turn. When he appears, Officer Berg says nothing. He walks quickly because of the screaming, because of the edge in his secretary's voice that warns him something is wrong. He takes in my pajamas as he moves past me for the coffee pot. He fills a disposable cup with coffee and extends it to me in an effort to warm me up. He helps me rise to my feet, pressing the cup into my hands. I don't drink it, but the heat off the cup feels good to touch. I feel grateful for it. The storm perseveres outside, the entirety of the little building shuddering at times. Lights flicker, the walls whine. He reaches for a coat on a coat rack and wraps me in it. "I have to speak with you," I tell him, the desperation and fatigue in my voice palpable. Officer Berg leads me down the hall. We sit side by side at a small expandable table. The room is bare. "What are you doing here, Dr. Foust?" he asks me, his tone thoughtful and concerned, but also leery. "Heck of a day to be outside," he says. I find myself shaking uncontrollably. For as much as I try, I can't warm up. My hands are wrapped around the cup of coffee. Officer Berg gives me a nudge and tells me to drink up. But it's not the cold that makes me shake. I start to tell him everything, but before I can, Officer Berg says, "I received a call from your husband a short while ago." And my words get stuck in my throat. I'm at a loss, wondering why Will called him after we'd agreed that we'd come see him together. "You did?" I ask instead, sitting upright, because these aren't words I expected to hear. Officer Berg nods his head slowly. He has an uncanny way of maintaining eye contact. I struggle not to look away. I ask, "What did he want?" bracing myself for the officer's reply. "He was worried about you," Officer Berg says, and I feel myself relax. Will called because he was worried about me. "Of course," I say, softening in the chair. Perhaps he tried to call me first, and when I didn't answer the phone, he called Officer Berg. Perhaps he called Officer Berg to check on me and see if I was all right. The weather and the ferry delay. I was upset the last time we spoke. "Yes," he says. "Mr. Foust told me." I start, again sitting upright. "He told you I was upset?" I ask on the defense, because this is personal, not something Will needed to tell the police. He nods. "He's worried about you. He said you were upset about some washcloth." And it's then that the conversation shifts, because it's patronizing the way he says it, as if I'm just some stupid ninny running off at the mouth about a washcloth. "Oh," I say, and I leave it at that. "I was getting ready to head to your house and check on you. You saved me a trip," he says. Officer Berg tells me the afternoon commute will be messy because the local schools weren't called off ahead of the storm. The only saving grace is that the snow is to slow in the hours to come. And then Officer Berg begins to pry. "You want to tell me about this washcloth?" "I found a washcloth," I tell him slowly, "covered in blood, in my laundry room." And then, because I've said that much already, I go on. "I found the knife buried in my backyard." He doesn't so much as blink. "The knife that was used to kill Mrs. Baines?" he asks. "I believe so," I say. "Yes, it had blood on it." "Where is the knife now, Doctor?" "It's in my backyard." "You left it there?" "I did." "Did you touch it?" "No," I say. "Whereabouts in your backyard?" he asks, and I try to describe it for him, though I imagine that by now the knife is engulfed in snow. "And what about this washcloth? Where is that?" "Under the washing machine, in the laundry room," I tell him. He asks if there's blood on that still too, and I say yes. He excuses himself and leaves the room. For nearly 30 seconds he's gone, and when he comes back, he tells me that Officer Bissett is going to my home to retrieve the washcloth and knife. I say to him, my son is home, but he assures me that's all right, that Officer Bissett will be in and out quickly, that he won't bother Otto. But I think, officer, I start, and then just as soon stop. I don't know how to say this. I pick at the rim of the disposable cup, pieces of foam coming with me, gathering in a pile on the tabletop, like snow. And then I come right out and say it. I think maybe my son murdered Mrs. Baines, I say, or maybe Imogen did. I expect more of a reaction, but instead he goes on, as if I didn't just say those words aloud. There's something you should know, Dr. Foust, he says, and I ask, what's that? Your husband. Yes? Will. I hate this way he beats around the bush. It's utterly maddening. I know my husband's name, I snap. And for a moment he stares at me, saying nothing. Yes, he says in time. I suppose you do. A beat of silence passes by. All the while he stares at me. I shift in my seat. When he called, he retracted his earlier statement about the night Mrs. Baines was killed, about how the two of you were watching TV, and then went straight to bed. According to your husband, that's not entirely true. I'm taken aback. It's not? It's not. Not according to Mr. Foust. What did Mr. Foust say happened? I churlishly ask, as voices come through on the police scanner, loud but indistinct. Officer Berg goes to it, turning the volume down so that we can speak. He returns to his chair. He said that night, after your program ended, you didn't go to bed like you said. He said you walked the dogs instead. You took the dogs for a walk while he went up to the bedroom to wash up. You were gone quite some time, your husband said. I feel something inside of me start to shift. Someone is lying, but I don't know who. Is that right? I ask. That's right, he says. But that's not true, I argue. I don't know why Will would say this. There's only one thing that I can think, that Will would do anything to protect Otto and Imogen, anything at all, even if it means throwing me to the wolves. He said you took the dogs for a walk, but as time went on and you didn't come home, he started to worry about you, especially when he heard the dogs barking. He looked outside to see what was the matter. When he did, he found the dogs out there, but not you. You left the dogs in the yard when you went over to the Baineses' home that night, didn't you? My stomach drops. There's the sensation of free-falling, of plummeting down the first hill of a roller coaster, organs shifting inside of me. I say, enunciating each word at a time, I didn't go to the Baineses' home that night. But he ignores this. He goes on as if I didn't even speak. He starts speaking of Will on a first-name basis. He is Will, and I am Dr. Faust. Officer Berg has chosen sides. He isn't on mine. Will tried you on your cell phone. You didn't answer. He started thinking that something terrible had happened to you. He hurried to the bedroom to put his clothes on so he could go searching for you. But just as he was about to panic, you came home. Officer Berg pauses for breath. I have to ask you again, Doctor. Where were you between the hours of 10 and 2 on the night that Mrs. Baines was killed? I shake my head, saying nothing. There's nothing to say. I've told him where I was, but he no longer believes me. Only now do I realize that Officer Berg has carried a large envelope into the room with him. All the while it sat on the table, just out of reach. He stands and reaches for it now. He slips a finger beneath the flap to open it up. Berg begins to lay photographs on the table for me to see. They're truly heinous, growing more ghastly with each image he draws out. The images have been enlarged, 8 by 10 inches at least. Even when I avert my eyes, I see them. There's a photograph of an open door, door jamb and latch intact, of sprays of blood trickling down the walls. The room is strikingly tidy, which makes me think there wasn't much of a scuffle. The only things out of place are an umbrella stand, which lies on its side, and a framed photograph hanging cockeyed as if it got elbowed in the fracas. At the center of it all lies Morgan. She's splayed in an uncomfortable position on an area rug, brown hair veiling her face, arms thrown up and over her head, as if, in a last-ditch effort, she tried to protect her face from the blade of the knife. A leg looks broken from the fall, bent in a way it's not meant to go. Her pajamas are on, flannel pants and a thermal top, all of it red, so it's impossible to see where the blood ends and the pajamas begin. The left leg of her pants is hitched to the knee. Small footprints are pressed into the puddles of blood. They lessen in density as they drift away from the body. I envision an officer's hands luring the little girl away from the dead woman's body. "What I see here, Doctor," Officer Berg is telling me, "isn't a sign of a random crime. Whoever did this wanted Morgan to suffer. This was an act of anger and aggression." I can't tear my eyes away from the photo. They drift over Morgan's body, the bloody footprints, back to the photograph mounted on the wall, the one that hangs cockeyed. I grab the photograph from the table and bring it to my eyes for a better look at that mounted picture frame, because I've seen it before, and not so long ago. The way the trees line the street is familiar. There is a family of 4, a mother, father, and 2 daughters, roughly the ages of 10 and 20. The woman, the mother, in a pretty green dress, is set on a bright yellow chair in the center of it, while her family stands around her. "Oh, God," I gasp, hand going to my mouth, because this photograph, framed and mounted to Morgan Baines's wall, is the same as the one in the newspaper article about Erin's death, the one on my computer. The older girl, nearly 20 years old, is Will's former fiancé, Erin. It was likely taken just months before she died. The younger girl is her little sister. I choke on my own saliva. Officer Berg pats my back, asks if I'm okay. I nod because I can't speak. "It's not easy to look at, is it?" Officer Berg asks, thinking it's the dead woman's body that has me rattled like this. I see it now, what I couldn't see before. Because the woman in the photograph, the mother perched on the chair, is older now. Her brown hair is now gray, and she's lost a significant amount of weight. Too much weight, in fact, so that she's gaunt. It's utterly impossible. It's too hard to digest. This can't be. The woman in this photograph is Morgan's mother, the woman I met at the memorial service, the woman who lost another child years ago and has never been the same since, according to her friends Karen and Susan. But I don't understand it. If this is true, it means that Morgan was Erin's sister. That Morgan is the little girl in the photograph, the one who's about 10 years old. Why didn't Will tell me about this? I think I know why. Because of my own insecurities. What would I have done if I'd learned Erin's sister was living in such close proximity to us? I realize Will and Morgan's friendship, their chumminess, it was real. It existed because of their shared affinity for the one woman Will loved more than me. Erin. The room drifts in and out of focus. I blink hard, trying to get it to stop. Officer Berg teeters on the chair beside me. He doesn't move. It's my perception of him that makes him move. It's all in my head. The edges of his face begin to soften. The room suddenly expands in size, walls widen, moving out. When the officer speaks, his words are nearly extinguished by whatever is going on in my head. I see his lips move. His words are harder to make out. The first time he says it, it's unintelligible. Pardon me? I ask, speaking loudly. Will told us that you have a tendency toward being jealous and insecure. He did he? Yes, Dr. Faust, he did. He said he never expected you to act on those feelings, but he also said that you've been having a hard time lately, that you're not quite yourself. He mentioned a panic attack, a forced resignation. You're not the violent type, not according to Will. But, he says, repeating his own words, he says you haven't been yourself lately. He asks, do you have anything to say to that? I say nothing. A headache begins just then, inching up the nape of my neck, stabbing me between the eyes. I clench my eyes shut tight, pressing my fingertips to my temples to dull the pain. I must experience a drop in blood pressure, because all at once, it's hard to hear. Officer Berg is talking, asking if I'm okay, but the words are more muffled than they were before. I'm underwater. A door opens and then closes. Officer Berg is speaking to someone else. They found nothing, but they're conducting a search of my home because Will has given them permission to do so. Dr. Faust? Dr. Faust? A hand shakes my shoulder. When my eyes open up, some old guy's looking at me. He's practically drooling. I glance at the clock. I look down at my shirt. A blue button-down pajama shirt buttoned all the way up, making me gag. I can barely breathe. She can be such a prig sometimes. I unbutton the top 3 buttons, let in a little air. It's fucking hot in here, I say, fanning myself, seeing the way he looks at my clavicle. Everything all right? He asks. He's got one of those looks on his face, like he's confused about what he sees. His eyebrows are all scrunched up. He digs the heels of his hands into his eye sockets, makes sure he isn't seeing things. He asks again if I'm all right. I think I should ask if he's all right. He seems to be in far more distress than me, but I don't so much care if he is, so I don't ask. Instead, I ask, why wouldn't everything be all right? You seem, I don't know, disoriented somehow. You're feeling okay? I can fetch you some water if you don't want your coffee. I look at the cup before me. It's not mine. He just looks at me, saying nothing, staring. I say, sure, about the water. I twirl a strand of hair around my finger, taking in the room around me. Cold, bland, a table, 4 walls. There's not much to it, nothing to look at, nothing to tell me where I am. Nothing except for this guy before me, fully decked out in a uniform. Clearly a cop. And then I see the pictures on the table beside me. Go on, I tell him. Fetch me some water. He goes and comes back again. He gives me the water, sets it on the table in front of me. So, tell me, he says. Tell me what happened when you took the dogs for a walk. What dogs? I ask. I've always liked dogs. People, I hate, but I'm quite fond of dogs. Your dogs, Dr. Faust. I get a great big belly laugh out of that. It's preposterous, ludicrous, him mistaking me for Sadie. It's insulting more than anything. We look nothing alike. Different color hair, eyes, a heck of an age gap. Sadie is old. I'm not. Is he so blind he can't see that? Please, I say, tucking a strand of hair behind an ear. Don't insult me. He does a double take, asks, Pardon me? I said don't insult me. I'm sorry, Dr. Faust, But I stop him there, because I can't stand the way he keeps referring to me as Sadie, as Dr. Faust. Sadie would be lucky to be me, but Sadie is not me. Stop calling me that, I snap. You don't want me to call you Dr. Faust? No, I tell him. Well, what should I call you then? He asks. Would you prefer that I call you Sadie? No. I shake my head, insistent, indignant. I tell him, You should call me by my name. His eyes narrow, homing in on me. I thought Sadie was your name. Sadie Foust. You thought wrong then, didn't you? He looks at me, words slack as he asks, if not Sadie, then who are you? I stick a hand out to him, tell him my name is Camille. His hand is cold when he shakes it, limp. He looks around the room as he does, asks where Sadie went. I tell him, Sadie isn't here right now. She had to go. But she was just here, he says. Yeah, I tell him, but now she's not. Now it's just me. I'm sorry, I'm not following, he says, asking again if I'm feeling okay, if I'm all right, encouraging me to drink up the water. I'm feeling fine, I say, drinking the water in one big swig. I'm thirsty and hot. Dr. Faust. Camille, I remind him, searching the room for a clock to see what time it is, how much time I've missed. He says, okay, Camille, then. He shows me one of the pictures from the laptop, the one where she's covered in her own blood, eyes open, dead. Do you know anything about this? I leave him hanging. Can't let the cat out of the bag just yet. Sadie. I'm alone in a room, sitting in a chair that backs up to a wall. There isn't much to the room, just walls, 2 chairs, a door that's locked. I know because I've already tried leaving. I tried turning the knob, but it didn't turn. I wound up knocking on the door, pounding on the door, calling out for help. But it was all in vain, because no one came. Now the door easily opens. A woman walks in, carrying a teacup in her hand. She comes to me. She sets a briefcase on the floor and helps herself to the other chair, sitting opposite me. She doesn't introduce herself, but begins speaking as if we already know one another, as if we've already met. She asks me questions. They're personal and invasive. I bristle in the chair, drawing away from them, wondering why she is asking about my mother, my father, my childhood, some woman named Camille, whom I don't know. In my whole life, I've never known anyone named Camille. But she looks at me, disbelieving. She seems to think I do. She tells me things that aren't true, about myself and my life. I get agitated, upset when she says them. I ask how she can claim to know these things about me when I don't even know them for myself. Officer Berg is responsible for this, for sending her to speak to me. Because one minute he was interrogating me in his tiny room, and the next minute I'm here, though I have no idea what time it is, what day it is, and I can't remember anything that happened in between. How did I get here? Into this chair? Into this room? Did I walk here myself? Or did they drug and bring me here? This woman tells me that she has reason to believe I suffer from dissociative identity disorder, that alternate personalities, alters, she calls them, control my thoughts, my behavior from time to time. She says that they control me. I take a deep breath, gather myself. That's impossible, I breathe out. Not to mention utterly ridiculous, I say, throwing my arms up in the air. Did Officer Berg tell you that? I ask, getting angry, losing my composure. Is there nothing Berg won't do to pin Morgan Baines's murder on me? This is unprofessional, unethical, illegal even, I snap, asking who is in charge so that I can demand to speak to him or her. She answers none of my questions, but instead asks, are you prone to periods of blackouts, Dr. Faust? 30 minutes, an hour pass that you can't remember? I can't deny this, though I try. I tell her that's never happened. But at the same time, I don't remember getting here. There are no windows in this room. There's no way to get a sense of the time of day. But I see the face of the woman's watch. It's upside down, but I see it. The hands in the realm of 250. But whether that's AM or PM, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter, because I know good and well it was 10, maybe 11 o'clock in the morning when I walked to the public safety building, which conceivably means that 4, or 16, hours have passed that I can't account for. "Do you remember speaking to me earlier today?" she asks. The answer is no. I don't remember speaking to her, but I tell her I do anyway. I claim I remember that conversation quite well, but I've never been a good liar. "This isn't the first time we've spoken," she tells me. I gathered as much from her line of questioning, though that doesn't mean I believe her. That doesn't mean she isn't making it all up. "But the last time I was here, I wasn't speaking to you, Doctor. I was speaking to a woman named Camille," she says. And then she goes on to describe for me a pushy, garrulous young woman named Camille, who is living inside of me, along with a withdrawn child. I've never heard anything as ridiculous in my whole life. She tells me that the child doesn't say much, but that she likes to draw. She says that the two of them, this woman and the child, drew pictures together today, which she shows me, plucking a sheet of paper from her briefcase and handing it to me. And there it is, sketched with pencil on a sheet of notebook paper this time. The dismembered body, the woman, the knife, the blood. Otto's artwork, the same picture I've been finding around the house. I tell her, I didn't draw that, my son drew that. But she says, no. She has a different theory about who drew this picture. She claims that the child alter inside of me drew it. I laugh out loud at the absurdity of that, because if some child alter living inside of me drew it, then what she's saying is that I drew this picture, that I drew the pictures in the attic, in the hallway, and left them around the house for myself to find. I did not draw this picture. I did not draw any of the pictures. I'd remember if I did. I tell her, I didn't draw this picture. "Of course you didn't," she said. And for a split second, I think she believes me, until she says, "Not you specifically, not Sadie Foust. What happens with DID is that your personality gets fragmented. It gets split. Those fragments form distinct identities, with their very own name, appearance, gender, age, handwriting, speech patterns, more." "What's her name then?" I challenge. "If you spoke to her, if you drew pictures with her, then what's her name?" "I don't know. She's shy, Sadie. These things take time," she says. "How old is she?" I ask. "She's 6 years old." She tells me that this child likes to color and draw. She likes to play with dolls. She has a game she likes to play, which this woman played with her in an effort to get her to open up. Play therapy, this woman tells me. In this very room, they held hands and spun in circles. When they were both as dizzy as could be, they stopped. They froze in place like statues. "The statue game," she called it, this woman tells me, because they held still like statues until one of them finally toppled over. I try to imagine what she's telling me. I picture this child spinning in circles with this woman, except the child alter, if I'm to believe her, is not a child. It's me. It makes me blush to think of it. Me, a 39-year-old woman, holding hands and spinning around this room with another grown woman, freezing in place like statues. The idea is absurd. I can't stand to entertain it. Not until Tate's words come rushing back to me. "Statue game, statue game." And it strikes a nerve. "Mommy is a liar. You do know what it is, you liar." On average, those with DID have around 10 alters living within them, she tells me. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Sometimes as many as 100. "How many do I supposedly have?" I ask, because I don't believe her. Because this is just some elaborate scam to besmirch my name, my character, making it easier for me to take the fall for Morgan's murder. "So far, I've met 2, she says. So far, there may be more, she goes on to say. Dissociative identity disorder often begins with a history of abuse at a young age. The alternate personalities form as a coping mechanism. They serve different purposes, like protecting the host, standing up, speaking up for the host, harboring the painful memories. As she says it, I think of myself harboring parasites. I think of the oxpecker bird who eats bugs off the backs of hippos. A symbiotic relationship, once thought, until scientists realized the oxpeckers were actually vampire birds, digging holes to drink the blood of the hippopotamuses. Not so symbiotic after all. She says, "Tell me about your childhood, Dr. Faust." I tell her I can't remember much of my childhood, nearly nothing, in fact, until I was around 11 years old. She just looks at me, saying nothing, waiting for me to put it together. Are you prone to periods of blackouts, Dr. Faust? But blackouts are temporary losses of time, caused by things like alcohol consumption, epileptic seizures, low blood sugar. I didn't black out for the extent of my young childhood. I just don't remember. That's typical in cases of DID, she tells me after a while. The dissociation is a way to disconnect from a traumatic experience, a coping mechanism, she says again, as if she didn't just say that moments ago. Tell me about this woman, I say. I'm trying to catch her in a lie. Certainly sooner or later she'll contradict herself. This Camille woman. She tells me there are different types of alters. Persecutor alters, protector alters, more. She has yet to ascertain which this young woman is, because sometimes she stands up for me, but more often her portrayals of me are hate-filled. She's huffy, ticked off, angry and aggressive. It's a love-hate relationship. She hates me. She also wants to be me. The little girl doesn't know I exist. Officer Berg took the liberty of doing some research, she says. Your mother died in childbirth, no? She asks. And I say that yes, she did. Preeclampsia. My father never spoke of it, but by the way his eyes got glossy whenever her name came up, I knew it had been horrific for him. Losing her, raising me alone. When you were 6, your father remarried, she says. But I object to this. No, he didn't, I say. It was just my father and me. You said you don't remember your childhood, Doctor, she reminds me. But I tell her what I do remember. Being 11 years old, my father and me living in the city, him taking the train to work, coming home 15, 16 hours later, drunk. I remember, I say, though I don't remember what came before this, but I'd like to believe it was always the same. She pulls paperwork from her briefcase, telling me that the year I was 6 years old, my father married a woman by the name of Charlotte Schneider. We lived in Hobart, Indiana, and my father worked as a sales rep for a small company. 3 years later, when I was 9, my father and Charlotte divorced. Irreconcilable differences. What can you tell me about your stepmother? She asks. And I tell her, nothing. You're mistaken. Officer Berg is mistaken. There was no stepmother. It was only my father and me. She shows me a photograph. My father, me, and some strange but beautiful woman, standing before a home I don't know. The house is small, just 1.5 stories tall. It's nearly engulfed in trees. In the drive is a car. I don't recognize it. My father looks younger than I remember him, more handsome, more alive. He stares sideways at the woman, his eyes not meeting the camera lens. His smile is authentic, which strikes me as odd. My father was a man who didn't often smile. In the image, he has a full head of dark hair and is without all the sawtooth lines that later took over his eyes and cheeks. My father had a nickname for me when I was a girl. Mouse, he called me, because I was one of those twitchy, tick-prone kids, always wrinkling my nose up, like a mouse. I showed this picture earlier today. It didn't sit well with the child altar, Sadie. It made her run to the corner of the room, begin scribbling furiously on paper. She drew this, she says, holding the drawing up, showing it to me again. The dismembered body, the blob of blood. Around the time you were 10 years old, your father filed for an order of protection against your stepmother. He sold your home in Indiana, moved with you to Chicago. He started a new career at a department store. Do you remember this? She asks. But I don't. Not all of it, anyway. I need to get back to my family, I tell her instead. They must be worried about me. They must wonder where I am. But she says that my family knows where I am. I picture Will, Otto, and Tate in our home without me. I wonder if the snow relented, if ferry traffic resumed, if Will made it home in time to pick Tate up from school. I think of Otto at home when the police arrived to collect the washcloth, the knife. Is my son here? Is my son Otto here? I ask, wondering if I'm even at the public safety building anymore, or if they've taken me elsewhere. I look around. I see a windowless room, a wall, 2 chairs, a floor. There's no way to know where I am. I ask the woman, "Where am I? When can I go home?" "I just have a few more questions," she says. "If you'll bear with me, we'll get you out of here soon." When you arrived at the station, you told Officer Berg there was a bloody washcloth in your home, along with a knife. Yes, I tell her, that's right. Officer Berg sent someone to your home. The property was thoroughly searched. Neither item was there. They're mistaken, I say, voice elevating, my blood pressure spiking as a headache forms between my eyes, a dull, achy pain, and I press on it, watching as the room around me begins to drift in and out of focus. I saw them both. I know for certain they're there. The police didn't look hard enough, I insist, because I know I'm right about this. The washcloth and the knife were there. I didn't imagine them. There's more, Dr. Foust, she tells me. Your husband gave the police permission to search your home. They found Mrs. Baines's missing cell phone there. Can you tell us how it came to be in your home, or why you didn't turn it in to the police? I didn't know it was there, I say defensively. I shrug my shoulders, tell her I can't explain. Where did they find it? I ask, feeling hopeful that the answers to Morgan's murder are there on her phone. They found it, oddly enough, charging on your fireplace mantel. What? I ask, aghast. Then I remember the dead phone, the one I assumed was Alice's. We asked your husband. He said he didn't put it there. Did you put the cell phone on the mantel, Dr. Foust? She asks. I tell her I did. What were you doing with Mrs. Baines's cell phone? She asks. And this I can explain, though it sounds so unbelievable as I say it, telling her how I found Morgan's cell phone in my bed. You found Mrs. Baines's phone in your bed. Your husband told the police you're the jealous type, that you're mistrustful, that you're intolerant of him speaking to other women. That's not true, I snap, angry that Will would say these things of me. Every time I accused him of cheating, it was with good reason. Were you jealous of your husband's relationship with Mrs. Baines? No, I say, but that's of course a lie. I was somewhat jealous. I was insecure. After Will's history, I had every right to be. I try to explain this to her. I tell her about Will's past, about his affairs. Did you think your husband and Mrs. Baines were having an affair? She asks. And I did, truth be told, think that. For a time I did, but I never would have acted on it. And now I know that it wasn't an affair they were having, but something that went deeper than that. Will and Morgan had a bond, a connection, to his former fiancée, the one he claimed he didn't love any more than me. But somehow, I think he did. I reach across the table, take a hold of her hands, and say, "You have to believe me. I didn't do anything to hurt Morgan Baines." She pulls her hands away. I feel disembodied then. I watch on as another me sits slumped in a chair, speaking to a woman. I do believe you, Dr. Faust. I do. I don't think Sadie did this, the woman says, though her voice comes to me muffled, as if I'm slipping away, drowning in water, before the room drops entirely from sight.
Will. They let me into the room. Sadie is there. She sits on a chair with her back to me. Her shoulders slump forward. Her head is in her hands. From the backside, she looks to be about 12 years old. Her hair is matted down to her head. Her pajamas are on. I tread lightly. Sadie? I gently ask, because maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. Until I get a good look at her, I never know who she is. The physical characteristics don't change. There's always the brown hair and eyes, the same trim figure, the same complexion and nose. The change is in her demeanor, in her bearing. It's in her posture, in the way she stands and walks. It's in the way she talks, her word choice and pitch. It's in her actions. If she's aggressive or demure, a killjoy or crass, easy or high-strung. If she comes on to me, or if she cowers in a corner, crying out like a little girl for her daddy every time I touch her. My wife is a chameleon. She looks at me. She's wrecked. She's got tears in her eyes, which is how I know she's either the kid or she's Sadie, because Camille would never cry. They think I killed her, Will. Sadie. Sadie's voice is panicked when she speaks. She's being hypersensitive, as always. She rises from the chair, comes to me, attaches herself to me, arms around my neck, getting all clingy, which ordinarily Sadie doesn't do. But she's desperate now, thinking I'll do her bidding for her, as I always do. But not this time. Oh, Sadie, I say, stroking her hair, being amenable as always. You're shaking, I say, pulling away, keeping her at an arm's length. I've got empathy down to a science. Eye contact, active listening, ask questions, avoid judgment. I could do it in my sleep. It never hurts to cry a little, too. My God, I say. I let go of her hands long enough to reach for the tissue I put in my pocket before, the one with enough menthol to make myself cry. I dab it at my eyes, put it back in my pocket. Let the waterworks begin. Berg will rue the day he did this to you. I've never seen you so upset, I tell her, cupping her face in my hands, taking her in. What did they do to you? I ask. Her voice is screechy when it comes. She's panicking. I see it in her eyes. They think I killed Morgan. That I did it because I was jealous of you and her. I'm not a killer, Will, she says. You know that. You have to tell them. Of course, Sadie. Of course I will. I lie, always her Johnny on the spot. Always. It gets old. I'll tell them, I say, though I won't. I'm not convinced of the need to commit obstruction of justice for her, though Sadie herself could never kill. That's where Camille comes in handy. Truth be told, I like Camille more than Sadie. The first time she manifested herself for me, I thought Sadie was yanking my chain. But no, it was real, and almost too good to be true. Because I'd discovered a vivacious, untamable woman living inside my wife, one I was more smitten with than the woman I married. It was like discovering gold in a mine. There's a whole metamorphosis that happens. I've been at this long enough that I know when it's happening. I just never know who I'll get when the mutation takes place, if I'll wind up with a butterfly or a frog. You have to believe me, she begs. I do believe you, Sadie. I think they're trying to frame me, she says. But I have an alibi, Will. I was with you when she was killed. They're blaming me for something I didn't do. She yells as I go to her, hold her pretty little head in my hands, and tell her everything will be all right. She recoils, then, remembering something. Berg said you called him, she says. He said you called him and took back what you said about that night. He says you said I wasn't with you after all, that I walked the dogs, that you didn't know where I'd gone. You lied, Will." "Is that what they told you?" I ask, aghast. I let my mouth drop, my eyes go wide. I shake my head and say, "They're lying, Sadie. They're telling lies, trying to pit us against each other. It's a tactic. You can't believe anything they say." "Why didn't you tell me Morgan was Erin's sister?" she asks, changing tack. "You kept that from me. I would have understood, Will. I would have understood your need to connect with someone Erin loved, if only you'd have told me. I would have supported that," she says. And it's laughable, really. Because I thought Sadie was smarter than this. She hasn't put two and two together. I didn't need to connect with Morgan. I needed to disconnect. I didn't know she lived on the island when we moved here. If I did, we wouldn't have come. Imagine my surprise when I saw her for the first time in 10 years. I could have let it go, too. But Morgan couldn't let sleeping dogs lie. She threatened to snitch, to tell Sadie what I'd done. The picture of Erin she left for Sadie to find. I found it first, put it in the last place I expected Sadie to look. It was just my luck that she did. Morgan was a stupid kid the night I took Erin's life. She heard us fighting because Erin had fallen for some dick when she was off at school. She came home to break the engagement off. She tried to give me the ring back. Erin had only been gone a couple of months, but by winter break she was high and mighty already. She thought she was better than me. A sorority girl while I was still living at home, going to community college. Morgan tried to tattle, to tell everyone she heard us fighting the night before, but no one was going to believe a 10-year-old over me. And I played the role of the distraught boyfriend quite well. I was heartbroken as could be, and no one yet knew Erin had been seeing someone new. She only told that to me. The evidence, the storm, the icy patches on the street, the lack of visibility, was also insurmountable that night. I'd taken precautions. When they found her, there were no external signs of violence, no signs of a struggle. Asphyxiation is extremely difficult to detect. They didn't do a tox screen either, on account of the weather conditions. No one considered that Erin might have died because of a shitload of Xanax in her system, because of hypoxia, because of a plastic bag strapped down over her head. The cops didn't. They didn't think once about the way I pulled the bag from her head when she was dead, how I moved Erin's body to the driver's seat, shifted the car into drive, watched her corpse take a ride into the pond, before I walked the rest of the way home, grateful for the snow that covered my tracks. No, they thought only of the icy road, of Erin's lead foot, of the indisputable fact that she swerved off the road and into the freezing water, which was quite disputable after all, because that's not the way it happened. Premeditated murder. It was almost too easy to do, and get away with. I moved on, met Sadie, fell in love, got married. Enter Camille. She took care of me in ways Sadie never could. I never imagined all that she'd do for me over the years. Morgan wasn't the first woman she killed for me. Because there was Carrie Lammer, too, a student of mine, who accused me of sexual harassment. Again, Sadie speaks. They say I disassociate, that I'm only one of many parts, that there are people living inside of me, she says. It's ludicrous. I mean, if you, my husband, didn't see it, how could they? It's one of the many things I love about you. Your unpredictability. Different every day. I'll tell you this, Sadie. You were never boring. I just never came up with a diagnosis for your condition, I say. Though it's a lie, of course. I've known for eons what I was dealing with. I learned how to turn it in my favor. You knew? She asks, aghast. It's a good thing, Sadie. The silver lining. Don't you see? The police don't think that you killed Morgan. They believe that Camille did. You can plead not guilty by reason of insanity. You won't go to jail. she gasps, coming undone. It's fun to watch. But I'll be sent to a psychiatric institution, Will. I won't be able to go home. That's better than jail, isn't it, Sadie? Do you know what kind of things happen in jail? But, Will, she tells me, desperate now. I'm not insane. I step away from her. I go to the door because I'm the only one of us with the freedom to leave. There's power in that. I turn and look at her, my face changing, becoming visibly apathetic because the sham empathy is getting exhausting. I'm not insane, she tells me again. I hold my tongue. It wouldn't be right to lie.
Sadie. Sometime after Will has gone, Officer Berg steps into the room with me. He leaves the door open. I know my rights. I demand to see a lawyer. But he just shrugs half-heartedly at me and says, "No need." Because they're letting me go. They have no evidence to hold me on. The murder weapon and the washcloth that I said I saw were nowhere to be found. The going theory is that I made them both up in an effort to throw off the investigation, but they can't prove that either. They say I killed Morgan, that I transformed into some other version of me and killed her myself. But the police need probable cause before they can arrest me. They need something more than mere suspicion. Even Mr. Nilsson's statement isn't damning enough because it doesn't place me at the crime scene. The cell phone in my home also doesn't do that. These things are circumstantial. It feels like some phantom thing. There are parts of my life I can't account for, including that night. It's in the realm of possibility that I murdered that poor woman, or some version of me did, though I don't know why. The pictures Officer Berg showed me come to mind, and I stifle a cry. "Would you like us to call your husband to come get you?" Officer Berg asks, but I say no. Truth be told, I'm a bit upset that Will left me at the police station alone. Though the weather outside is still inclement, I need to be alone with my thoughts. I need fresh air. Officer Berg himself offers me a ride, but I say no to that too. I need to get away from him. I start to shrug off the coat Officer Berg gave me, but he stops me, saying I should keep it. He'll get it another time. It's dark outside. The sun has set. The world is white. But for now, the snow has stopped coming down. Traffic moves slowly. Headlights maneuver through snowbanks. Tires scrape against the packed-down snow. The streets are messy. There are slippers on my feet, though they're a far cry from shoes. They're knit and a faux fur that only absorbs the moisture, making my feet wet, red, numb. My hair hasn't seen a comb today. I have no idea what I look like, though I'd venture to guess it's just a hairbreadth away from a madwoman. As I walk the few blocks home, I piece together the last few hours of my life. I left Otto alone with the washcloth and the knife. The police came searching for these things. By the time they did, they were gone. Someone did something with the washcloth and the knife. As I make my way toward our street, I put my head down and walk, my arms tied into a knot to stave off the night's fierce wind. The snow on the ground still blows about. There are icy patches on the street, which I slip on, falling once, twice, 3 times. Only on the 3rd time does a good Samaritan help me to my feet, taking me for a drunk. He asks if he can call someone to come pick me up, but by then I'm almost home. I just have our street to climb, and I do so gracelessly. I see Will in the window when I arrive, sitting on the sofa, the fireplace red hot. His legs are crossed and he's lost in thought. Tate dashes through the room, smiling merrily, and on his way past, Will tickles his belly, and he laughs. Tate takes off, running up the stairs and away from Will, and then he's gone, to some other part of the house where I can no longer see him. Will returns to the sofa, laces his hands behind his head, and leans back, seemingly content. There are lights on in the upstairs windows, Otto's and Imogen's, which face the street, though the curtains are closed. I can't see anything but the glowing peripheries of the windows, though it surprises me that even Imogen is home. At this time in the evening, she isn't often home. From the outside, the house looks perfectly idyllic, as it did the first day we arrived. The rooftops, the trees are covered with snow. It covers the lawn, sparkling white. The snow clouds have cleared, the moon illuminating the picturesque scene. The fireplace spews smoke from the chimney, and though outside the world is freezing, inside it looks undeniably homey and warm. There's nothing amiss with this scene, as if Will and the kids have moved on without me, no one noticing my absence. But the very fact that nothing is amiss makes me feel instinctually that something is wrong.
Will. The door bursts open. There she stands, all slovenly and wind-blown. Nice of Berg to give me fair warning that she'd been let go. I hide my surprise. I rise to my feet, go to her, cup her cold face in my hands. "Oh, thank God," I say, embracing her. I hold my breath. She smells putrid. "They finally came to their senses," I say, but Sadie's giving me the cold shoulder, pulling away, saying I left her there, that I abandoned her. It's all very dramatic. "I did no such thing," I say, playing to her weakness, her penchant for losing time. Roughly a quarter of the conversation Sadie has she doesn't remember having, which has become unexceptional for me, but is quite the nuisance for coworkers and the like. It makes it difficult for Sadie to have friends, because on the surface she's moody and aloof. "I told you I'd be back just as soon as I made sure the kids were all right," I say. "Don't you remember? I love you, Sadie. I would never have abandoned you." She shakes her head. She doesn't remember, because it didn't happen. "Where are the kids?" she asks, looking for them. "In their rooms." "When were you going to come back?" "I've been making calls, trying to find someone to come stay with the kids. I didn't want to leave them alone all night." "Why should I believe you?" she asks, a doubting Thomas. She wants to look at my phone, see whom I've called, and it's only because Fortune smiles down on me that there are recent calls in the call log to numbers Sadie doesn't know. I assign them names: Andrea, a colleague, and Samantha, a graduate student. "Why wouldn't you believe me?" I fire back, playing the victim. We hear Tate upstairs, jumping away on his bed. The house groans because of it. She shakes her head, feeling spent, and says, "I don't know what to believe anymore." She rubs at her forehead, trying to figure it out. She's had a hell of a day. She can't understand how a knife and washcloth could just up and disappear. She asks me, her tone exasperated and contentious. She's looking for a fight. I shrug my shoulders and ask back, "I don't know, Sadie. Are you sure you really saw them? Because a little gaslighting never hurts." "I did," she says, desperate to make me believe her. This is turning into a bit of a shitstorm now that the police are involved, unlike last time when things went so smoothly. I'm usually so much tidier about such things. Take Carrie Lammer, for example. All I had to do that time was wait for Camille to come, put the idea in her head. Camille is suggestible, as Sadie is easily suggestible. It's just that Sadie isn't the violent type. I could have done it myself, but why would I, when I had someone willing to do my bidding for me? I cried my eyes out, told her all about Carrie's threats, how she accused me of sexual harassment. I said I wished she would just go away and leave me alone. My career, my reputation would be gone if Carrie made good on her threats. They'd take me away from her. They'd put me in jail. I told her, she's trying to ruin my life. She's trying to ruin our lives. I didn't specifically ask Camille to kill her. And yet, nevertheless, a few days later, Carrie was dead. The way it happened was that one day, poor Carrie Lammer went missing. There was a wide-scale search. Word had it that she'd been at a frat party the night before, boozing it up. She left the party alone, stumbled out of the house drunk. She fell down the porch steps while fellow partygoers watched on. Carrie's roommate didn't return home until the following morning. When she did, she found that Carrie's bed hadn't been slept in, that Carrie hadn't made it home the night before. Security cameras across campus caught glimpses of Carrie staggering past the library, falling down in the middle of the quad. It was unlike Carrie, who could hold her liquor, or so said the students who saw the CCTV footage, as if it was brag-worthy, a high tolerance for alcohol. Her parents would be so proud to know what their 50 grand a year bought them. There were lapses in the video surveillance, black holes where the cameras didn't reach. I was at a faculty event that night. People saw me. Not that I was ever a suspect, because no one was. Because that time, unlike this, things went swimmingly. No pun intended. Not far from campus was a polluted canal where the university's crew team rode. The water was more than 10 feet deep, contaminated with sewage, if the rumors were true. A wooded running path sat parallel to the canal, all of it shadowed by trees. After 3 days missing, Carrie turned up there, in the canal. The police called her a floater because of the way she was found, most of her body parts bobbing buoyantly on the surface of the canal, while her heavy head dragged beneath. Cause of death, accidental drowning. Everyone knew she'd been drunk, stumbling. Everyone saw. It was easy enough to assume, then, that she tumbled drunkenly into the canal, all on her own. The entirety of the student population mourned. Flowers were laid at the edge of the canal beneath a tree. Her parents traveled from Boston, left her childhood teddy bear there at the scene. What Camille told me was that Carrie never thrashed about in the water. She never gasped and screamed for help. What happened instead was that she bobbed listlessly on the surface for a while. Her mouth sank beneath the water. It came back up and went back down. It went on this way for a while, head tossed back, eyes glassy and empty. If she bothered to kick, Camille said, she couldn't tell. She struggled that way for nearly a minute. Then she submerged, slipping silently beneath the water. The way Camille described it for me, it sounded as undramatic as drowning gets, as anticlimactic. Boring, if you ask me. This time it was just unlucky that Sadie got to that laundry before me. I've been careless. Because the night with Morgan, the transformation from Camille to Sadie happened too quickly, leaving me to clean up the mess. Her clothes I burned. The knife I buried. I just never counted on Sadie doing the laundry. Why would I? She never does. I also never knew that Camille had taken Morgan's necklace. Not until I saw it sitting on the countertop this morning. Camille should have been more careful where she stood that night. She should have better anticipated the sprays of blood. It wasn't like it was her first rodeo. But she came home a bloody mess. It was up to me to wipe her clean, leaving my fingerprints on the knife and washcloth. I couldn't let the police find that. Sadie rubs at her face and says again, I just don't know what to believe. It's been a long day, a stressful day, and you haven't been taking your pills, I say. It dawns on her. She went to bed without taking her pills. She forgot about them this morning. I know because they're still where I left them. That's why she feels this way, out of control as she always does when she doesn't have her pills. She reaches eagerly for them, swallows them down, knowing that in a short while she'll be back to feeling like herself. I almost laugh out loud. The pills do nothing. It's only in Sadie's head that something happens. The placebo effect. Because she thinks popping a pill will naturally make her feel better. Have a headache? Pop some Tylenol. A runny nose? Some Sudafed. You'd think, as a doctor, Sadie would know better. I bought the empty capsules online. I filled them with cornstarch, replaced the ones the doctor prescribed with these. Sadie took them like a good girl. But she'd whine about it at times, say the pills made her tired and fuzzy because that's what pills are supposed to do. She can be so suggestible sometimes. I make Sadie dinner. I pour her a glass of wine. I sit her down at the table, and as she eats, I rub her cold, dirty feet. They're mottled and gray. She nods off at the table, so tired she sleeps upright. But she sleeps for only a second at best, and when she awakes, she groggily asks, voice slurred with fatigue, "How did you get home in the storm? Otto said the ferries weren't running." So many questions. So many fucking questions. Water taxi. What time was that? I'm not sure. In time to get Tate. She's coming to now, speaking clearly. They kept the kids at school all day? Even with the storm? They kept them there until parents could get to them. So you went straight to the elementary school? You didn't come home first? She asks. I tell her no. She's cobbling together a timeline. I wonder why. I tell her I took the water taxi to the island, picked up Tate, came home. Then I went to the public safety building for her. Only some of it is true. What was Otto doing when you came home? She asks. I'll have to shut her up soon, because her curiosity is the only thing standing between me and getting off scot-free.
Sadie. I stand in the bedroom, rummaging through my drawers, finding clean pajamas to replace the ones I have on. I need a shower. My feet are aching, my legs bruised. But these things are inconsequential when there are bigger worries on my mind. It's an out-of-body experience. What's happening can't possibly be happening to me. I spin suddenly with the knowledge that I'm no longer alone. It's a metaphysical sensation, something that moves up my spine. Otto comes into the bedroom unannounced. He's not there, and then he is. His sudden arrival makes me leap, my hand going to my heart. I come to face him. The signs of his illness are now visible. He wasn't lying. He's sick. He coughs into a hand, his eyes vacant and feverish. I think of the last conversation I had with Otto, where he accused me of putting the knife in his backpack. If what that policewoman said is true, I didn't do it. But the part of me known as Camille did. The guilt is enormous. Otto isn't a murderer. Quite possibly, I am. He says to me, "Where were you?" And then again he coughs, his voice scratchy like it wasn't before. Will didn't tell the kids where I was. He didn't tell them I wasn't coming home. How long would he have waited to tell them? How would he have said it? What words would he have used to tell our children I'd been arrested by the police? And when they asked why, what would he have said? That their mother is a murderer? You just left, he said, and I see the child still in him. He was scared, I think, panicked that he couldn't find me. I say vaguely, I had something I needed to take care of. I thought you were here. I didn't know you were gone till I saw Dad outside. You saw him come home with Tate, I assume. I picture Will's small sedan fighting its way through the snow. I can't imagine how the car made it. But Otto tells me no. It was before Tate came home. He says that soon after we talked in the living room, he changed his mind. He was hungry. He wanted that toast after all. Otto says he came down to find me, but I wasn't here. He looked for me, caught a glimpse of Will traipsing through the backyard in the snow. But Otto is mistaken. It was me, not Will, he saw in the backyard in the snow. That was me, I tell him. I was trying to get the dogs inside, I say. I don't tell him about the knife. I realize now what must have really happened with the knife back in Chicago. Camille must have put it in Otto's backpack. The story he told me about the night, on the fire escape, when I convinced him to stab his classmates, wasn't a pipe dream. From Otto's perspective, it happened just as he said it did, because he saw me. And the disturbing drawings, the strange dolls, that wasn't Otto. That was also me. It was Dad, he says, shaking his head. I realize that my hands are shaking, my palms sweaty. I rub them against the thighs of my pajama pants, ask Otto again what he said. Dad was here, he repeats, in the backyard, shoveling. Are you sure it was your father? I ask. Why wouldn't it be? He asks, put off by my questions now. I know what Dad looks like, he says. Of course you do, I say, feeling lightheaded and breathless. Are you sure it was in the backyard that you saw him? I'm grateful that he's speaking to me. After his disclosure this afternoon, I'm surprised that he would. I'm reminded of his words. I'll never forgive you. Why should he? I'll never forgive myself for what I've done. Otto nods his head. He says out loud, I'm sure. Will was shoveling the lawn? Who in the world shovels grass? I realized then that Will wasn't shoveling. He was digging through the snow for the knife. But how would Will have known about the knife? I only told Officer Berg. The answer comes to me, shaking me to my core. The only way Will would know about that knife is if he was the one who put it there.
Will. Sadie is quickly working out that my story is full of holes. She knows someone in this house killed Morgan. She knows it might be her. With a little sleuthing, she'll soon discover, if she hasn't already, that I'm the puppet master pulling the strings. And then she'll tell Berg. I won't let that happen. I'll get rid of her first. After she ate, Sadie went upstairs to wash up for bed. She's tired, but her nerves are frayed. Sleep won't come easy tonight. While the pills she takes are placebos only, that doesn't mean that the pills I pick up at the pharmacy, those I save for a rainy day, aren't the genuine thing. Combine them with a little wine and voila, I have myself a deadly cocktail. The best part of the plan is that Sadie's mental state is well documented before we came to Maine. Add to that the discoveries of the day, and it wouldn't be such a stretch to think she might want to kill herself. A murder meant to look like a suicide. Sadie's words, not mine. I find the pills high above the kitchen cabinets. I use the mortar and pestle to crush them. I run the sink to lessen the sound. The pills aren't exactly easy to dissolve, but I have my ways. Sadie has never been averse to a glass of wine after her pills, though she should know better because such things don't mix well. What I'm anticipating is some form of respiratory distress, but who really knows? There's a whole host of things that can go wrong with a lethal overdose. I draft a suicide note in my mind. It will be easy enough to forge. I can't live with myself. I can't go on this way. I've done a horrible, horrible thing. After Sadie is dead, it will be just the boys, Imogen and me. This is quite the sacrifice I'm making for my family. Because, as the breadwinner, Sadie is the one with the life insurance policy. There's a suicide clause in it, which says the company won't pay out if Sadie kills herself within 2 years of the policy going into effect. I don't know that she's had it 2 years. If she has, we're due a lump sum of $500,000. I feel a ripple of excitement at that prospect. What $500,000 could buy me. I've always thought I'd like to live in a houseboat. If she hasn't had the policy for 2 years, we'll get nothing. But even then, I reassure myself, it's not as if Sadie's death will be for naught. There's still much value in it. Most important, my freedom. There just won't be any financial gain. Momentarily, I stop crushing the pills. The thought of that saddens me. I think that perhaps it's best to shelve Sadie's suicide until I've looked into the policy, because $500,000 is a lot to waste. But then I reconsider. Silently, I scold myself. I shouldn't be so greedy, so materialistic. There are more important things to consider. After all that Sadie has done, I can't have my boys living with a monster.
Sadie. Why would Will bury a knife in the backyard? And what reason would he have to dig it up and hide it from the police? If he took the knife, did he take the washcloth too? The necklace? Will lied to me. He told me he picked Tate up from school and then came home, but it happened the other way around. Will knew about my condition, this way I have of transforming into someone else. And he didn't tell me. If he knew there was a potentially violent side of me, why didn't he get me help? "You were never boring," he said. Such a glib thing to say in light of what I know now. Will is hiding something. Will is hiding many things, I think. I wonder where the knife is now, where the washcloth and necklace are. If the police did a thorough search of our home, then they're not here. They're somewhere else. Unless Will had these things on his own person while the police searched our home, and he hid them afterward, in which case they may be here. But if I'm the one who killed Morgan, why would Will hide these things? Was he trying to protect me? I don't think so. I consider what Officer Berg told me, that Will called him and retracted his alibi for me that night. Will said he wasn't with me when Morgan was killed. Was Officer Berg lying, as Will said he was, trying to pit us against each other? Or did it happen as Officer Berg said? Was Will incriminating me? I consider what I know about Morgan's murder. The boning knife. The threatening notes. "You know nothing. Tell anyone and die. I'm watching you." This is helpful, but unthinkable, because I can't get the idea of Aaron and Morgan as sisters out of my mind. It's the most damning evidence of all, because they're both dead. My mind gets lost on our wedding day, the days we welcomed our babies into the world. The idea that Will, that ever-gentle and compassionate Will, whom everyone likes, whom I've known half my life, could be a killer, cripples me. I begin to cry, but it's a silent cry because it has to be. I press my hand to my mouth, lean against the bedroom wall, my body nearly collapsing. I press hard, stifling the cry somewhere inside. My body convulses. The tears stream from my eyes. I can't let the others hear me. I can't let them see me. I steady myself, tasting Will's dinner as it moves back up and into my esophagus. By the grace of God, it stays there. I know now that Will had a hand in Morgan's murder, because he was in on Aaron's too. Aaron's murder, I think, and not a horrible, unfortunate accident. But why kill Morgan? I go back to the threatening notes and decide she knew something he didn't want the rest of the world to find out. With Will downstairs, I begin to search our bedroom for the missing things. The knife, the washcloth, Morgan's necklace. Will is too smart to hide these things in obvious places, like under the mattress or in a dresser drawer. I go to the closet. I search the inside of Will's clothing for secret pockets, finding none. I drop to my hands and knees, crawling across the floorboards. It's a wide plank floor, which could conceivably house a secret compartment beneath. I feel with my fingers for loose boards. With my eyes, I scan for subtle differences in the height of the boards and in the wood grain. Nothing immediately catches my eye. On my haunches, I think. I let my eyes wander around the room, wondering where else Will could hide something from me if he wanted to. I consider the furniture, the floor register, a smoke detector. My eyes move to the electrical sockets, where one is placed evenly in the center of each wall, totaling 4. I rise to my feet, foraging inside the dresser, under the bed, behind the curtain panels. And that's when a 5th electrical outlet catches my eye, tucked behind the heavy drapery. This outlet is not evenly placed as the others are, in the dead center of each wall, but disproportionately placed in a way that doesn't make sense to me. It's mere feet to the left of another outlet, and, on close examination, looks slightly different than the rest, though an unsuspecting person would never notice, only someone who very much believed her husband had something to hide. I let my gaze fall to the doorway. I listen, making sure Will isn't on his way up. The hallway is dark, empty, but it's not quiet. Tate is wound up tonight. I drop to my hands and knees. I don't have a screwdriver, so I plunge a thumbnail into the head of the screw. I turn and turn, warping the nail, tearing it low enough that it makes my finger bleed. The screw comes out. Instead of peeling the outlet cover away from the wall, it opens, revealing a tiny safe behind. There is no knife, no washcloth, no necklace there. Instead, there's a roll of cash, $100 bills mostly, which I quickly, ham-fistedly tally up, losing count, landing somewhere well into the thousands of dollars. My finger bleeds on the dollar bills. My heart races inside of me. Why would Will be hiding this money in the wall? Why would Will be hiding this money from me? There's nothing else there. I don't replace the contents of the safe. I hide that in my own dresser drawer. I drop the drapes back into place. I stand from the floor, press a hand to the wall to steady myself. Around me, the world spins. When I get control of myself, I walk lightly from the bedroom and down the stairs. I hold my breath. I bite down hard on my lip as I descend the steps one at a time. As I approach the bottom steps, I hear Will humming a happy tune. He's in the kitchen, washing dishes, I think. The sink water runs. I don't go to the kitchen. I go to the office instead, turn the knob and softly close the door behind myself, so there is no audible noise of the latch bolt retracting. I don't lock the door. It would rouse suspicion if Will found me in the office with the door locked. I check the search history first. There's nothing there. It's all been wiped clean. Even the earlier search I found on Aaron's death. It's gone. Someone sat at this computer after me, got rid of the internet search, just like the knife and the washcloth. I open a search engine. I type in Aaron's name for myself and see what I can find. But it's all the same as I saw before. Detailed accounts of the storm and her accident. I see now that there was never an investigation into her death. It was ruled an accident based on the circumstances, namely the weather. I do a search into our finances. I can't understand why Will would be hiding so much money in the walls of our home. Will pays the bills for us. I don't pay much attention to them unless he leaves a bill lying around on the counter for me to see. Otherwise, the bills come and go without my knowledge. I go to the bank website. The passwords for our accounts are all nearly the same, some variation on Otto's and Tate's names and birth dates. Our checking and savings accounts seem to be intact. I close the site and look into our retirement accounts, the kids' college savings, the credit card balance. These seem reasonable too. I hear Will call for me, hear his footsteps go up and then down the stairs, looking for me. "I'm here," I call out, hoping he doesn't hear the tremor in my voice. I don't minimize the screen. Instead, I enter another search: dissociative identity disorder. When he comes into the room and asks, I tell him I'm trying to learn more about my disease. We haven't yet talked about how he knew and I didn't. It's just another thing he's been keeping from me. But now that I know about it, there's a new worry: that I'll simply up and disappear at any moment, and someone else will take my place. "I poured you a glass of Malbec," he says, standing in the office doorway with it, carrying it in a stemless glass. He comes farther into the room, strokes my hair with his free hand. My skin crawls as he does, and it takes everything in me not to pull away from his touch. "We were out of the Cabernet," he says, which he knows is my favorite wine. Malbec is decidedly more bitter than I like, but it doesn't matter tonight. I'll drink anything. He peers over my shoulder at the website I've landed on, a general medical site that lists symptoms and treatment. "I hope you aren't upset that I didn't tell you," he says by means of an apology. "You'd take it hard, I knew, and you were managing the condition quite well. I kept an eye on you, made sure you were fine. If I'd have ever thought things were turning problematic—" He stops abruptly there. I glance up to face him. "Thank you," I say, "for the wine," as he sets the glass on the desktop and tells me, "After everything you've been through today, I thought maybe you could use a drink." I could most certainly use a drink. something to calm and soothe me. I reach for the glass and angle it toward my lips, imagining the anesthetizing sensation as it slips down my throat and dulls my senses. But my hand shakes as I do, and so I put the glass instantly back, not wanting Will to see how nervous I am because of him. "Don't worry yourself over this," he says. With 2 free hands, he massages my shoulders, up my neck. His hands are warm and assertive. His fingers worm their way onto my scalp, through my hair, kneading the base of my skull, where I'm prone to tension headaches. "I've done some research myself," Will says. "Psychotherapy is the recommended treatment. There are no medications that treat this thing, as if it's cancer that I've got." I wonder if he knows so much, why he never suggested psychotherapy before. Perhaps it's because I've seen therapists in the past. Perhaps it's because he mistakenly believed I was getting treatment. Or perhaps it's because he never wanted me to get better. "We'll come up with a plan in the morning," he says, "after you've had a good night's sleep." He withdraws his hands from my head. He steps to the side of the chair, and with a soft spin, he turns the chair so that I'm looking at him. I don't like the control he has over me. Will waits a beat, and then he drops to his knees. He looks me in the eye, says dotingly, "I know this has been a hell of a day. Tomorrow will be better, for both of us." "Are you sure?" I ask, and he tells me, "I am. I promise." And then he cups my face in his hands. He runs his lips over mine, softly, delicately, as if I'm easily broken. He tells me I mean the world to him, that he loves me more than words could ever say. From upstairs, there's a thump. Tate begins to scream. He's fallen from bed. Will draws back, eyes closed. In a moment, he rises up to standing. He nods toward the glass of wine. "Just holler if you'd like more." He leaves, and only then do I catch my breath. I hear his footsteps on the stairs, his voice call out to Tate that he's on his way.
Will. For as smart as Sadie is, she's also utterly clueless. There's a lot she doesn't know. Like how, if I log into her Google account from another device, as I do from the bedroom now, I can see her search history. She's been up to no good. Nosing around on the bank's website. Not that she'll find anything there. But she found other things. It was the blood that gave it away as I first came into the bedroom a few minutes ago. 4 stray drops of it on the floor, from the door to the curtains. I went to the bedroom curtains, looked behind, saw that the outlet cover hung lightly aslant. I opened the safe. The money was gone. That avaricious hog, I thought. What has she done with it? Now that she's found the money, it won't take long for Sadie to figure out I've been robbing Imogen's trust fund. The girl is a pest, but she's worth keeping around just for that. I'm slowly creating my own little nest egg. According to her search history, Sadie's also been looking into Aaron and Morgan online, connecting the dots. Perhaps she's not as clueless as I thought. I put Tate to bed. He's glum from the fall. I give him Benadryl, tell him it will help his little noggin feel better. I give a dab more than the recommended dose. I can't have him awake tonight. I kiss the spot on Tate's head where it hurts, get him in bed. He asks for a bedtime story, and I oblige. I'm not worried. No matter what Sadie finds, it will be a moot point when she drinks her wine. It's only a matter of time.
Sadie. I have to find a way to call Officer Berg and tell him what I've found. He won't believe me, but I have to tell him anyway. He'll be obligated to look into it. I haven't seen my cell phone since the morning. The last time I saw it, it was in the kitchen, the same place our landline is. That's where I need to go. But the idea of leaving the office scares me, because if Will could kill Aaron, he could kill me. I take a series of deep breaths before I go. I try to act nonchalant. I carry my wine with me. I bring a letter opener just in case, with a sharp enough blade. I slide it in the waistband of my pajama pants, worried it will fall. On the other side of the office door, I'm vulnerable. The house is oddly quiet and dark. The kids are asleep. No one told me good night. A light glows in the kitchen. It's not bright. A stove light only, which I go to, like a moth to a porch light, trying hard to shake the feeling that Will is behind me, that Will is watching me, that Will is there. If he killed Aaron, how did he do it? Was it in a fit of rage, or was it premeditated? And what about Morgan? How, exactly, did she die? I feel the letter opener slipping deeper into my pants. I hoist it up. My hands are trembling, unsteady, and so the wine spills as I do, the glass getting cocked too far to one side. I lick the rim of the glass to wipe it clean. I purse my lips, not liking the bitter taste of the Malbec. Regardless, I take another sip, force it down as tears prick my eyes. A noise from behind startles me, and I turn, seeing only the shadowy foyer, the indefinite dining room. I hold still, watching, waiting, for movements, for sound. This old home has so many dark corners, so many places where someone can hide. Will, I say lightly, expecting him to reply, but he doesn't. No one does. No one's there, or at least I don't think someone is there. I hold my breath, listen for footsteps, for breathing. There's none. A blunt headache lingers, worsening in intensity as the moments go by, and I find myself becoming hot and bothered because of it. Under my armpits and between my legs, the skin is tacky. I take another sip of the wine, trying to calm my nerves. The wine doesn't taste as bad this time. I'm getting used to the bitterness. I see my phone on the table. I quickly cross the room and grab for it, stifling a cry when I turn it over to see that the battery is dead again. It will take a couple of minutes for the phone to charge well enough to use. There is another option, the landline, which is corded. The only way to use it is here in the kitchen. I'll have to be quick. I walk back across the kitchen. I grab the landline, a dated thing. Officer Berg's business card is tucked in the letter holder on the counter, which I'm grateful for, because without my cell phone, I don't have my contacts. I dial the number on the card. I wait desperately for the police officer to answer, sipping nervously from the glass of Malbec as I do.
Will. I follow her as she goes from one room to the next. She looks for me. She doesn't know that I'm here, closer than she thinks. She's monkeying around in the kitchen now. But when I hear the spin of a rotary dial, I know it's time to intervene. I come into the room. Sadie whirls around to face me, eyes wide. A deer in headlights is what she is, clutching the phone to her ear. She's scared shitless. Beads of sweat edge her hairline. Her skin is colorless, damp. Her breathing is uneven. I can practically see her heart thumping in her chest, like a scared little bird. It's reassuring to see that a third of the wine's been drunk. I'm on to her. But does she know that I am? Who are you calling? I ask calmly, just to see her grapple for a lie. But Sadie's never been a good liar, and so instead she's a deaf mute. It's telling, isn't it? That's how I know that she knows that I know. My tone shifts. I'm tired of this game. Put the phone down, Sadie. She doesn't. I step closer, snatch the phone from her, set it back on the cradle. She tries to hold on to it, but Sadie lacks physical strength. The phone gives effortlessly. That, I tell her, was not your brightest idea. Because now I'm mad. I weigh my options. If she hasn't drunk enough, I may have to coerce her into finishing the wine, but gagging and vomiting would be counterintuitive. I think of another way. I hadn't been planning on disposing of a body, not tonight, but it'd be just the same to make Berg believe she ran away as it would to make it look like a suicide. A little more laborious than originally thought, but still doable. Don't get me wrong. I love my wife. I love my family. I'm quite torn up about this. But it's unavoidable. A necessary consequence of the can of worms that Sadie has opened. If only she'd have left well enough alone. It's her fault this is happening.
Sadie. I feel woozy, disoriented, panic-stricken, because Will is angry, livid in a way that I've never seen him before. I don't know this man who stands before me, glaring intimidatingly at me. He looks vaguely like the man I married, and yet different. His words are clipped, his voice hostile. He jostles the phone from my hand, and that's how I know I wasn't imagining things. If I had any doubts about Will's part in Morgan's death, they're gone. Will did something. I take a step back for each step he draws near, knowing that soon my back will be to the wall. I have to think quickly, but my mind is foggy, thick. Will goes out of focus before me, but I see his hands coming at me in slow motion. I remember the letter opener just then, tucked away in the waistband of my pants. I grope for it, but my hands are trembling, careless. They get caught up in the pants elastic, knocking the letter opener loose by mistake, sending it sliding down my pant leg, crashing to the floor. Will's response time is far faster than mine. He hasn't been drinking. I feel drunk already, the alcohol hitting me harder than it usually does. Will leans down to the ground quicker than me, plucks the letter opener from the floor with nimble hands. He holds it up for me to see, asks, "What did you think you were going to do with this?" The meager kitchen lighting glints off the end of the stainless steel blade. He points it at me, dares me to flinch, and I do. His laugh is heinous, mocking me. How well we think we know those closest to us. And then, what a shock to the system it is to find out we don't know them at all. In his anger, his rage, he no longer looks familiar. I don't know this man. "Did you think you were going to hurt me with this?" he asks, stabbing his palm with it. And I see that though the edge is sharp, sharp enough to slice paper with, the point is dull. It does nothing but redden his palm. It leaves no other mark. "Did you think you were going to kill me with this?" My tongue thickens inside of my mouth. It makes it harder to speak. "What did you do to Morgan?" I ask. I won't answer his questions. He tells me, still laughing, that it wasn't what he did to her, but what I did to her that matters. My eyes turn dry. I blink hard, a series of times. A nervous tick. I can't stop. "You don't remember, do you?" he asks, reaching out to touch me. I draw swiftly back, thwacking my head on the cabinet. The pain radiates through my scalp, and I wince, a hand going involuntarily to it. He says condescendingly, "Ouch, looks like that hurt." I drop my hand. I won't satisfy him with a reply. I think of all the times he was so solicitous, so caring. How the Will I once knew would have run for ice when I hurt myself, would have helped me to a chair, pressed the ice to my aching head. Was that all in jest? "It wasn't me who did something to Morgan, Sadie," he says. "It was you." But I can't remember it. I'm of two minds about it, not knowing if I did or didn't kill Morgan. It's a terrible thing, not knowing if you took another's life. "You killed Aaron," I say, the only thing I can think to say back. "That I did," he says. And though I know it, hearing him admit to it makes it somehow worse. Tears well in my eyes, threaten to fall. "You loved Erin," I say. "You were going to marry her." "All true," he says. The problem was, Aaron didn't love me back. I don't take well to rejection. What did Morgan ever do to you? I cry out. And he smiles wickedly and reminds me that I'm the one who killed Morgan. What did she ever do to you? He quips. And I can only shake my head in reply. He tells me, I don't want to bore you with the details, but Morgan was Aaron's kid sister, who made it her life's mission to blame me for Aaron's death. While the rest of the world saw it as an unfortunate accident, Morgan did not. She wouldn't give it up. You took matters into your own hands, Sadie. Thanks to you, I've come through this thing unscathed. That didn't happen, I scream. He's the epitome of calm. His voice is even, not mercurial like mine. But it did, he says. There was this moment when you came back. You were so proud of what you'd accomplished. You had so much to say, Sadie, like how she would never get between us again because you took care of her. I didn't kill her, I assert. His laugh is a giggle. You did, he says, and you did it for me. I don't think I've ever loved you as much as I did that night. He beams, claims, all I did was tell the God's honest truth. I told you what would have become of me if Morgan made good on her threats. If she was able to prove to the police that I killed Aaron, I would have gone to jail for a long, long time. Maybe forever. They would have taken me away from you, Sadie. I told you we wouldn't ever see each other. We wouldn't ever be together again. It would be all Morgan's fault if that happened. Morgan was the criminal, not me. I told you that, and you understood. You believed me. The look on his face is triumphant. You never could live without me, could you? He asks, looking quizzically at me, like a psychopath. What's the matter, Sadie? He asks when I say nothing. Cat got your tongue? His words, his nonchalance, makes me see red. His laugh makes me enraged. It's the laugh, the awful, abominable laugh, that gets the better of me in the end. It's the self-satisfied look on Will's face, the way he stands there, head cocked at an angle. It's the complacent smile. Will manipulated my condition. He made me do this. He put an idea in my head, in the part of me known as Camille, knowing this poor woman, this version of me, would have done anything in the whole wide world for him, because she loved him so much, because she wanted to be with him. I feel saddened for her, and angry for me. It comes from somewhere within. No thought comes with it. I lunge at Will with all my might. I regret it as soon as I do, because though he stumbles some, he is much larger than me, much stronger, much more solid. And again, he hasn't been drinking. I shove him and he steps back, but he doesn't fall to the floor. He inches backward, latching down on a countertop to regain his balance. He laughs even more because of it, because of my paltry shove. That, he tells me, was a bad idea. I see the wooden block of knives on the countertop. He follows the gaze of my eyes. I wonder which of us will get to it first.
Will. She's weak as a kitten. It's laughable, really. But it's time to end this thing once and for all. No use putting it off any longer. I come at her quickly, wrap my hands around that pretty little neck of hers and squeeze. Her airflow is restricted because of it. I watch on as panic sets in. I see it in her eyes first, the way they widen in fright. Her hands clamp down on mine, scratching her little kitten claws to get me to release. This won't take long. Only about 10 seconds until she loses consciousness. Sadie can't scream because of the pressure on her throat. Other than a few insubstantial gasps, all is quiet. Sadie never has been much of a conversationalist anyway. Manual strangulation is an intimate thing. It's much different than other ways of killing. You have to be in close proximity to whoever it is you're killing. There's manual labor involved. Unlike with a gun, where you can fire off 3 rounds from the other side of the room and call it a day. But because of the work involved, there's a sense of pride that comes, too, of accomplishment. Like painting a house, or building a shed, or chopping firewood. The upside, of course, is that there isn't much of a mess to clean. I can't tell you how sorry I am it's come to this, I say to Sadie, as her arms and legs flail and she tries pathetically to fight back. She's tiring out. Her eyes roll back. Her blows are getting weaker. She tries to gouge my eyes out with her fingertips, but her thrust isn't strong or quick. I draw back, her efforts wasted. There's a pretty tinge to Sadie's skin. I press harder, say, "You're too smart for your own good, Sadie. If only you'd have let it be, this wouldn't be happening. But I can't have you go around telling people what I did. I'm sure you understand. And since you can't keep your own mouth closed, I tell her, it's up to me to shut you up for good."
Sadie. I deliberately collapse, my weight suspended only by his hands around my neck. It's a desperate attempt, a last-ditch effort. Because if I fail, I will die. As my vision blurs, fading in and out in those final moments, I see my children. I see Otto and Tate, living here alone with Will. I have to fight. For my children's sake, I cannot die. I cannot leave them with him. I have to live. The pain gets worse before it gets better, because without the strength of my legs and my spine to hold me upright, his grip on my neck intensifies. He bears the weight of my entire body in his hands. There's a prickling sensation in my limbs. They go numb. The pain is excruciating, in my head and in my neck, and I think that I will die. I think that this is what it feels like to die. In his arms, I am limp. Thinking he's succeeded in his task, Will loosens his hold. He eases my body to the floor. He's gentle at first, but then drops me the last couple of inches. He isn't trying to be gentle. He's trying to be quiet. My body falls, colliding with the cold tile. I try not to react, but the pain is almost too much to bear. Not from the fall itself, but from what this man has already done to me. There's the greatest need to cough, to gasp, to throw my hands to my throat. But if I want to live, I have to suppress the need, to lie there motionless instead, unblinking and unbreathing. Will turns his back on me. Only then do I steal a single short, shallow breath. I hear him. He starts making plans of how to get rid of my body. He's moving quickly because the kids are just upstairs, and he knows he can't delay. An unwanted thought comes to me, and I fill with horror. If Otto or sweet little Tate were to come down now and see us, what would Will do? Would he kill them too? Will unlocks and pulls open the sliding glass door. He tugs open the screen. I don't watch, but I listen and hear him do these things. He finds his keys on the counter. There's the sound of metal scraping against the Formica countertop. The keys jangle in his hand, and then are quiet. I imagine he's forced them into his jeans pocket, making plans to drag me out the back door and into his car. But what then? I'm no match for Will. He can easily overpower me. There are things I can use in the kitchen to defend myself with, but outside, there is nothing. Only the dogs, who love Will more than they love me. If Will gets me through the doors, I don't stand a chance. I need to think, and I need to think quickly, before he's able to haul me out. Still as a statue on the kitchen floor, I'm as good as dead to him. He doesn't check for a pulse. His one and only mistake. It's not lost on me, the fact that Will doesn't show remorse. He doesn't grieve. He isn't sad that I am gone. Will is all business as he leans over my body. He quickly assesses the situation. I feel his nearness to me. I hold my breath. The buildup of carbon dioxide burns inside of me. It becomes more than I can bear. I think that I will involuntarily breathe. That, as Will watches on, I will no longer be able to hold my breath. If I breathe, he will know. And if he discovers I'm alive, as I'm lying flat on my back as I am, I'll have no capacity to fight back. My heart beats hard and fast in fear. I wonder how he can't hear it, how he can't see the movement through the thin pajama shirt. Saliva collects inside my throat, all but gagging me, and I'm overwhelmed by the greatest need to swallow, to breathe. He tugs on my arms before reconsidering. He grabs me by the ankles instead and pulls roughly. The tile floor is hard against my back, and it takes everything in me not to grimace from the abrading pain, but to be limp instead, dead weight. I don't know how far away from the door I am. I don't know how much farther we have to go. Will grunts as he moves, his breath wheezy. I'm heavier than he thought. Think, Sadie, think. He pulls me a handful of feet. Then he stops to gather his breath. My legs drop to the floor. He gets a better grip on my ankles. He tugs gruffly in short bursts. I slide, inches at a time, knowing the time to save myself is running out. I'm nearing the back door. The cold air is closer than it was before. It takes great willpower to get myself to fight back, to let Will know that I'm alive, because if I don't succeed, I will die. But I have to fight back, because I'll die either way if I don't. Will lets go of my feet again. He takes a breath. He helps himself to a sip of water straight from the tap. I hear the water run. I hear his tongue lap at it like a dog. The water turns off. He swallows hard, comes back to me. When he leans down to gather my ankles back into his hands, I use every bit of strength I have to sit suddenly upright. I brace myself and smash my head into his. I try to use his growing fatigue to my advantage, his state of imbalance. His equilibrium is thrown off because he's hunched over my body, pulling. For this 1 second, I have the upper hand. His hands go to his head. He staggers suddenly backward, losing balance, falling to the floor. I waste no time. I press on the ground and force myself to my feet. But as the blood rushes down, the world around me spins. My vision fades to black. I nearly collapse before the adrenaline rushes in, and only then can I see. I feel his hands on my ankle. He's on the floor, trying to pull me down with him. He calls me names as he does, no longer worried about being quiet. "You bitch, you stupid, stupid bitch," he says. This man I married, who vowed to love me till death do us part. My knees buckle and I collapse to the floor beside him, falling fast. I land face down, my nose hitting the floor so that it begins to bleed. The blood is profuse, turning my hands red. I get quickly to my hands and knees. Will comes at me from behind, attempting to reach over me for my neck as I struggle to crawl away from him. I kick backward. I have to get away from him. My hands reach desperately for the countertop. They latch on, trying to pull me upward, but just as soon lose their grip. My hands are sweaty, my hold weak. Everywhere there is blood. It comes from my nose, my mouth. I can't hold on to the countertop. I slip away, falling back to the floor. The wooden block of knives sits just out of reach, mocking me. I try again. Will grapples again for my ankle. He takes me by the lower leg and pulls. I kick hard, but it isn't enough. The blows only leave him momentarily dazed, but I'm growing tired, my efforts weakening. I fall face down again on the floor, biting my tongue. I can't keep doing this. The adrenaline in my body has slowed, the wine, the lethargy taking over. I don't know that I have it in me to go on. But then I think of Otto, of Tate, and I know that I must go on. I'm on the floor face down as Will mounts my back. All 200 pounds of him bear down on me, forcing me face first into the kitchen floor. I couldn't scream if I wanted to. I can barely suck in a breath. My arms are pinned beneath me, getting crushed by Will's weight and mine. I feel his hands in my hair, massaging my scalp. It's oddly gentle, sensuous. I feel his satisfaction at having me in this position. Time slows down. I try to press up against the weight of him, but go nowhere. I can't find my arms. Will runs his fingers through my hair. Breathlessly, he says my name. Oh, Sadie. He exhales. He enjoys that I'm pinned to the ground as I am, in a powerless position, a slave to my master. My lovely wife, he says. He leans in close enough that I feel his breath on my neck. He runs his lips the length of it. He bites gently on my earlobe. I let him. I can't make him stop. He whispers into my ear, "If only you would have left it alone." And then he clutches a handful of my hair in his tacky hand, hoists my face inches from the floor, and smashes it back down to the tile. I've never felt such pain in my life. If my nose wasn't broken before, it is now. He does it again. Whether it's enough to eventually kill me, I don't know. But soon it will render me unconscious, and there's no telling what he will do then. This is it, I tell myself. This is where I will die. But then something happens. It's Will, not me, who makes a sound. Some strange, inarticulate scream of pain. I feel suddenly weightless, not knowing what's happened. A breath later, I realize that the reason for the weightlessness is that he's fallen from my body. He's perched inches to my side, struggling to get to his feet, though his hands are at his head, and he, like me, is bleeding. His blood comes from his head, where there is a sudden laceration that wasn't there before. I crane my aching neck to see. I follow the gaze of his eyes, now shrouded in fear, to see Imogen standing in the kitchen doorway. The fireplace poker is in her steady hands, and it's raised over her head. She blurs in and out before me, until I'm not certain she's real or a result of a head injury. Her face is deadpan. There is no emotion, no anger, no fear. She comes forward, and I brace myself for the debilitating pain of the fireplace poker as it strikes me. I clench my eyes, my jaw, knowing the end is near. Imogen will kill me. She will kill the both of us. She never wanted us here. I grind my teeth. But the pain doesn't come. I hear Will grunt instead. I open my eyes to see him stumble and fall to the ground, calling Imogen names. I look to her. Our eyes meet, and I know. Imogen is not here to kill me. She's come to save me. I see the determination in her eye as she raises the weapon for a third time. But one death on Imogen's conscience is enough. I can't let her do this for me. I spring to my unsteady feet. It's not easy. Every part of me aches. The blood is abundant, in my eyes so that I can hardly see. I lunge forward. I throw myself at the wooden knife block, getting in between Will and Imogen. I take the chef knife into my grasp. There's no feeling, no awareness of the handle in my hand. I barely register this man's face, his eyes as he rises to standing, and, at the same time, I turn to face him. I see the movement of his mouth. His lips move, but there's a ringing in my ears. I can't stand it. I think that it will never stop. But then it does stop, and I hear something. I hear that heinous laugh as he says to me, "You'd never do it, you stupid cunt." He comes at me, attempts to grab the knife from my hands. He gets a hold of it for a minute, and I think, in my weakness, that I will lose the knife to him. That when I do, he will use it to kill both Imogen and me. I pull violently back, regaining full possession of the knife. He comes at me again. I don't think this time. I just do. I react. I plunge the knife into his chest, feeling nothing as the tip of the chef knife cuts right through him. I watch it happen. Imogen, behind me, watches too. The blood comes next, spraying and oozing from his body as all 200 pounds of him collapses to the floor with a dull thud. I hesitate at first, watching the blood pool beside him. His eyes are open. He's alive, though the life is quickly leaving his body. He looks to me, a beseeching glance as if he thinks I might just do something to help him survive. An arm rises, reaches enfeebled for me, but he can't reach me. He won't ever touch me again. I am in the business of saving lives, not taking them. But there are exceptions to every rule. You don't deserve to live, I say, feeling empowered, because there's no tremor, no shaking in my voice as I say it. My voice is as still as death. He blinks once, twice, and then it stops, the movement of his eyes coming to a stop, as do the heaving movements of his chest. He stops breathing. I fall to my hands and knees beside him. I check for a pulse. It's only then, when Will is dead, that I rise and turn to Imogen, folding her into my arms, and together we cry. Sadie. 1 year later. I stand on the beach, staring out at the ocean. The shoreline is rocky, creating tide pools that Tate splashes barefoot in. The day is cool, mid-50s, but unseasonably warm for this time of year, compared to what we're used to. It's January. January is often bitterly cold, thick with snow. But here it's not. And I'm grateful for it, as I'm grateful for all the ways in which this life is different from our life before. Otto and Imogen have gone ahead to climb rock formations that extend out into the sea. The dogs are with them, tethered to leashes, eager as always to climb. I stay behind with Tate, watch as he plays. As he does, I sit on my heels, examine the rocky beach with my hands. It's been a year now since we threw into a hat the names of the places we wanted to go. A decision like that shouldn't be taken lightly. And yet we had no family to speak of, no connections, no ties. The world was our oyster. Imogen was the one to reach into the hat and pick, and before we knew it, we were California bound. I've never been one to sugarcoat or to lie. Otto and Tate know now that their father isn't the man he led us to believe he was. They don't know all the details of it. Self-defense, it was decided, in the days after Will's death. Though I don't know if Officer Berg would have believed it if Imogen, hiding just on the other side of the kitchen door that night, hadn't managed to record Will's confession on her phone. She also managed to save my life. Hours after Will was dead, Imogen played the recording for Officer Berg. I was in the hospital, receiving treatment for my wounds. I didn't know about it until later. "You're too smart for your own good, Sadie. If only you'd have let it be, this wouldn't be happening. But I can't have you go around telling people what I did. I'm sure you understand. And since you can't keep your own mouth closed, it's up to me to shut you up for good." Imogen and I never talked about how she hadn't recorded the entire conversation that night. The parts where Will made it clear I was the one to physically carry out Morgan's murder. Only she and I would ever know the whole truth. No evidence of my involvement in Morgan's murder was found. I was exonerated. Will was charged with both women's deaths. But that wasn't the end of it. Months of therapy followed, with much more to come. My therapist is a woman named Beverly, whose purple-dyed hair seems incongruous with her 58 years, and yet it's perfectly suited to her. She has tattoos, a British accent. One goal of our time together is to locate and identify my alters and reunite them into one functioning whole. Another is to face head-on the memories my mind has hidden from me, those of my stepmother and her abuse. We're slowly succeeding. The kids and I have a family therapist. His name is Bob, which delights Tate. It makes him think of SpongeBob. Imogen has her own therapist, too. Otto goes to a private art academy, finally finding a world where he feels he fits in. Getting him there is a sacrifice. The tuition is steep and the commute long, but there is no one in the world who deserves this happiness more than Otto. I watch as ocean waves pound the shoreline. The spray of the waves splashes Tate, and he giggles with glee. This beach was once the site of a city trash dump. Long ago, residents tossed their trash over the cliffs and into the Pacific Ocean. In the decades that followed, the ocean smoothed and polished that trash. It spit it back out onto the shoreline. Except that by then, time and nature had repurposed the trash into something extraordinary. It was no longer refuse, but now beautiful beach glass that people come from all over the state to collect. I gaze at Otto and Imogen at the peak of a rock formation, sitting beside one another, talking. Otto smiles and Imogen laughs as the wind blows through her long hair. I see Tate splashing sublimely in the tide pool with a grin. There's a little boy beside him now. He's made a friend. I feel light because of it, buoyant. I close my eyes and stare up at the sun. It warms me through. Will stole many years from my life. He stole my happiness and made me do reprehensible things. It's taken time, but I'm finding ways to forgive myself for all that I have done. Will broke me at first, but in the process of healing, I've become a stronger, more confident version of myself than I used to be. In the aftermath of Will's exploitation and his abuse, I discovered the woman I was always meant to be, a woman I can be proud of, a woman my children can look up to and admire. I now know what true happiness is. I experience it every day. I step from a pair of sneakers and sink my bare feet into the sea, thinking of beach glass. If time can turn something so undesired into something so loved, the same can happen to all of us. The same can happen to me. It's happening already. We hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of The Other Misses by Mary Kubica, performed by Piper Goodeve and Jeremy Arthur. Presented by Park3 Books and Harper Audio. This program was produced by John Marshall Media. Executive producer Jennifer Lopes. Text copyright 2020 by Mary Kirichenko. Production copyright 2020 by Harlequin Enterprises Limited. Used under license with Harlequin Books, S.A. All rights reserved. Thank you for listening.